true. They all come and talk about the same thing, but the situation never changes. Since I was a young man in Palestine, I hear the same things over and over again, and nothing has changed, nearly a century later. The pain of my hopelessness is too big to describe. But at the end of the interview, he said, I have hope. So,
and you've captured that. These people, the wonder of this is that their lives are captured on their faces, and you've captured that.
It's been a real privilege.
Sure.
Guy Pasquini Coffee Company. Spent his first night in America under a bench in Washington Square.
In New York City?
In New York City.
Columbus Square.
Columbus Square.
Yes.
Okay.
Came over as a stowaway.
Oh, stowed away.
Wow. And today he's created a family. He's created a great business.
Sure.
He is truly a quiet hero like I keep saying about
Like so many of the others. It's like a Robert Louis Stevenson novel, but for real.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
Here's a great gal,
Rachel Lappin.
Rachel Lappin from Israel, migrated to the United States. But upon our interview with her, she said, I left Israel with my feet, not my heart. It is my heart where my Judaism lives. I love tradition. I remember the songs of the shtetl where my parents sang to me.
Wow.
So we move across the globe.
Yes, this is. It's like a wonder, the wanderers.
This gentleman is an intellectual teacher of literature from Tehran University.
Does he have something here?
He really does.
I love this last line.
Tragedy? Go ahead.
No, he said, tragedy has made my softer skin hide behind a harder one. Astonishing. Look at that gaze. Oh, my. So now here's another one. I found this portrait quite fascinating. Was this just a sort of spontaneous photo, or did you take the time to light it and do...
All of these images are photographed with natural light. We would walk into their homes, into their YMCA at times, but just a random spot with no preparation.
I want to share her with us. Let me come over this way. And if you can come here, Barbara and Barry.
Let me introduce, this is Dr. Gwen Bishop. She's 88 years old. And one of the things that she said that really touched me is, I have a problem with too much ethnocentricity. And I would like to see people mix groups more than we have in this generation. There has to be a balance between assimilation and maintaining your own culture. It all goes back to a model. I don't know how far away you can get from certain stereotypes.
Amazing. And this is third generation college graduate. Pretty astonishing. Now this one truly touched me because there's a story here. If you could introduce us to Faustino from the Philippines, correct?
From the Philippines. He has his military cap on, and I think that a lot of his life is the pride of what he did during the war.
What he survived.
And what he went through.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to read again. He's a survivor of the Bataan Death March during World War II and was incarcerated as a survivor of Japanese concentration camp at Kapaz Tarlac. He was imprisoned in provisional jail of Ilocos-sur-Vigan, fought a guerrilla war. He's been decorated. And he's been admired by Bill Clinton when Clinton was President of the United States.
It's just amazing. There are so many of these stories. You've got to come down and see this exhibit. Once again, the website so people can get the information.
What is the website?
It is
Quiet Heroes, over 80.
No, it is over 80 .barryschaeferphotography.com.
Okay, we'll make sure that it's on the television screen. Now, we're going to take a little break and see yet another video interview, so please, stay with us.
So have there been moments or experiences in your life that hold more significance than other times?
My folks were very poor people, and so they never gave me the education I wanted. I could have been a registered nurse, but they couldn't afford to leave me go to college. And I looked at my granddaughter's dream.
And what brought me to America?
Yes.
I came fairly old, so it wasn't at all money that was after. my American dream was the dream of freedom. And my very Islamic, the core of my Islamic belief, God created all living things programmed. Man, choice. And you bear the responsibility. It is this concept of freedom. To me, a human being is the being that is free. And I came to America to live in a free atmosphere.
Welcome back to Aging in LA. You know, it's always a pleasure when you find a secret gem in the midst of Los Angeles. And I thought we'd talk now with Nicolette Komenos, who is a representative of the gallery here. Can you tell me a little of the history? Because this is a unique place.
Oh, thank you. The gallery was started about 25 years ago by our director, Lydia Takashita, and it's a nonprofit. And Lydia has been the director and curator for all these years, and the mission of the gallery is to show the diversity not only of in terms of ethnicity, but in terms of gender, age,
Good.
and we have a wide variety of artists who show here. I mean, many galleries show mid-career artists and artists who are well established, but we also show artists who are just beginning in their career.
I see. And just based on the uniqueness of this Quiet Heroes over 80, you can see that that's a very interesting perspective, and Lydia is to be congratulated for that.
Absolutely.
How long ago did you move into this building? Was it 25
I think we've been here about 10 years.
Wow, outstanding.
But the gallery actually started, the first venue was in Little Tokyo.
I see. So we've moved around a little bit.
It's moved around, and we still have another location.
Okay, so it's LA Art Corps. This is the brewery annex. And what's the other location?
The other one is Union Center.
Okay, Union Center. Now we're going to rejoin Barbara and Barry Schaefer to talk some more about these extraordinary pictures of our quiet heroes over 80. Now I'm sharing with you a picture that really caught my eye of a lovely lady, Lydia Fermansky, and you were telling me about the challenges of her very small apartment.
So often it would be so difficult to find the right setting to be able to take a good image. This one, I was almost falling off her balcony, so I was able to...
I understand. But, and Barbara, to me, she looks like she's got a lot of living in her life.
You know, Lydia, not only is she a quiet hero, but she also was a hero in her early days.
And recognized for that.
And a recognized hero.
Yes.
She is known as a righteous Gentile and was honored by the state of Israel. And what that means is that she helped the Jews escape persecution.
Nazi
Germany. And she has amongst other things, one of her wonderful stories is that she harbored an 8-year-old boy in her home against her parents' wishes. She was 19 years old.
Oh my.
And then walked him to safety through the forest, trading her jewelry for food for them until she handed him over to the Red Cross.
Remarkable. I understand this, a smaller portion of this exhibition will be at the Bridge Gallery downtown, correct?
Right, at City Hall.
Right, so from 14th of May to June 18th,
That's right.
if you miss it here, you can perhaps will have a chance to see it there. But again, thank you for being here with us today on Aging in LA. And this is worth a trip because it's not just the words and the images, it'll make you think. These are our fellow citizens. Anyway, thank you for joining us, and again, thank you.
may not look dangerous. In fact, a lot of things we do in our neighborhoods may not appear hazardous, but they are when they go down the storm drains. Storm drains go straight to the ocean. Make the connection.
Every day, our brave troops and their families stand up for us.
For years, we've asked so much of so few.
Now we have a chance to serve these heroes,
To give time, offer comfort, or lend a hand.
to ease the burden on a military family.
Let's honor their service by volunteering ours.
You think it can't happen to someone like you? Are you crazy? It could happen to anyone.
No one can save your life,
Nor the life of someone you love. Hey, it's free. It's painless and easy. Don't be scared. Just get tested.
Know for sure. Get an HIV test now.
LA City View, Channel 35.
Good morning, Los Angeles, and welcome to the City Council meeting for Wednesday, October 13th, 2010. We're here in the John Ferraro Council Chamber, room 340 of City Hall. We meet here every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. We want to welcome members of the public who are here today and members of our city staff that have joined us as well. Thank you to Council members Cardenas and Hahn, Huizar Koretz, Labange, Parks, Perry, and Zine. We do not expect Mr. Krikorian, Mr. Wesson, Mr. Smith, or Mr. Reyes at the outset, so that leaves Mr. Rosendahl and Mr. Alarcon, if they'll please join us as soon as possible. I want to thank those members of the public who are here, as well as those who are viewing us on Channel 35. We're broadcast on Channel 35 throughout the city's cable system, live, and then rebroadcast each council day as well in the evening for your convenience. We also are available through 2 or 3 other media. One is through the computer, through our city's homepage at lacity.org. We have live streaming video of our council meetings on the web. We also archive all of our past council meetings, and you can click on items of interest to you on past agendas, and it will take you straight to the debate and discussion on any of those items. We're also available through your telephone by calling the following number, 213-621-CITY. That's 213-621-CITY, which is a service of the city called Council Phone. And you can listen into the council meetings as well as any of the committee meetings as well. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Finally, we have one last way that you can participate in these council meetings through the remote facilities we have both in Van Nuys and San Pedro City Halls, and you can testify from Van Nuys, you can testify from from San Pedro as well, and we're able to watch you here in council chambers. And every other month on Fridays, we're now back in Van Nuys City Hall chambers as well. We do have a quorum, so Mr. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Han, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
All right. First order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
All right. Mr. Labange moves and Mr. Koretz seconds without objection. Those will be approved. Next order of business, please.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Zine moves and Mr. Parks seconds without objection. Those will be approved as well. We can run through the agenda, and colleagues, if I can turn your attention to the agenda at hand, we will be going through that now.
Items 1 and 2 are items noticed for public hearing.
All right. Do we have cards on those?
We do on both, sir.
Okay. Let's call those special for cards from the public. Any members wishing to call those special as well? Seeing none. All right. Next,
items 3 through 17 are items for which public hearings have been held. Committee reports for items 3, 4, and 11 have been submitted and distributed to council. Items 3 and 5 are commission appointments. Would you like to hold them on the desk?
yes, please. Let's hold the commissioner's appointment on the desk. Other specials, colleagues? Let's hold the ords as well. We are expecting 12 members later in the meeting, so let's hold 6 and 7. Mr. Parks? 20? 12, sorry. 12 for Mr. Parks. Other specials? Mr. Labange?
Yeah, I think we should do the Pledge of Allegiance when you're done with this, since we missed it yesterday.
You got it. Okay. Any other specials, though, Mr. Labange? Okay. Ms. Hahn? Sorry, 17?
17.
Gotcha. 17 for Ms. Hahn. Other specials, colleagues? If not, let's go ahead and take up the balance. Please open the roll. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All right, those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 18 through 30 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, if there's no objection to consideration, those are before us. We'll hold the ordinances on the desk. That's 18 through 25. Mr. Koretz?
I might be premature. I was going to ask that 30 be called special.
You are not premature.
Okay, good.
Mr. Koretz calls 30 special. Other specials, Mr. Zine? 29 from Mr. Zine. And I believe there's a desire to continue number 28 till the 19th. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
Correct, sir.
Okay. Without objection, we'll continue 28. That leaves us just with 26 and 27. There are no desires to call those special. Let's take up the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Items 31 through 33 are items scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold those on the desk?
Yes, please. Let's hold those on the desk.
Mr. Parks.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Parks, did you want to take those?
Then that we have 31, 32 in open session. There are traffic accidents with no outstanding issues.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead then? Do we have any cards on those?
We do not, sir.
Okay. We'll close the public hearings. Why don't we walk through those settlements on 31 and 32? 31 first.
Item 31, there is a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $155,000 in the case entitled Timothy Park versus City of Los Angeles. Item 32 is a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $250,000 in the case entitled Kelvin Jelks versus City of Los Angeles.
Okay, let's prepare the roll on those two and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
On the continuation agenda, items 34 through 43 are items for which public hearings have been held.
All right. Ms. Perry has 43. Special, other specials, Mr. Parks?
34.
34 for Mr. Parks. Other specials? This is 34 through 43, colleagues. If not, we'll take up the balance in between. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items.
Items 44 through 50 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Without objection, those are before us. 49, Mr. Alarcon. And any cards on these, Mr. Clerk?
Do you have cards?
Or Madam Clerk?
We've got cards on 46 to 48.
Yes, sir. We have cards through on 46, 47, and 48.
Okay. We'll close the other public hearings, and let's hold 44 also on the desk as an ordinance till we have 12 members. That leaves us with 45 and 50. If we can please open the roll on those two items, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All right, those are approved. If I can ask everybody, Mr. Labange, if you'd like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if I can ask everybody to please rise for our salute to the flag. Thank you.
So place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You get it. Get it.
Oh, thank you so very much.
Get it.
We'll take 49 out of order for Mr. Alarcon. It's a reward motion. I know we have folks here for that, so I'd like to recognize Mr. Alarcon on item 49.
If I could ask Los Angeles Police Department officials from Mission Division to step forward to the podium. This is a reward motion relative to an occurrence in Sylmar on Polk Street. If I could get some quiet. Mr. President, can I ask for some quiet?
Yes, if we could please ask the Sergeant at Arms can assist us, colleagues and members of staff, if we can please move conversations outside or keep them to a bare minimum. Thank you.
Thank you. This motion is relative to a reward being offered for information leading to the conviction of the shooters at a party that was held for little kids. Little kids were literally in a jumper, and a couple of guys jumped out of a car and blasted away, and a number of people were injured. I think it was five. 5 people were injured with a shotgun blast, and several of them, 3 of them were kids. So you would think that at your 5-year-old birthday party you would not have to fear this kind of violence, but that's exactly what we're dealing with. So I'd like to ask Captain, excuse me, I'm forgetting.
No problem, sir. Captain Zach.
Captain Zach from Mission Division to tell us of the circumstances and why this reward motion is so important.
Sure. To my colleague to my right is Lieutenant Don Lehman of our Gang Impact Team. He will also provide some details of the incident. On August 14th, there was a 5-year-old birthday party in the city of Sylmar area, and kids were in the bouncer. They were having a 5-year-old's birthday party, enjoying as a family party. It wasn't a typical Sylmar party that you would expect gang members or a large party to get out of control. A vehicle drove by, a red Honda Accord drove by, jumped out of the passenger jumped out of the car and fired multiple shotgun rounds at the bouncer, striking 5 victims, 3 of which were juveniles. With this scenario, we've been working with the family and the community and trying to get them to come forward to identify the shooters. There is some reluctance on the family's part to come forward out of fear of retaliation, and also in hopes that their children can recover from this incident and make a speedy recovery and not have to continuously relive this endeavor. So with the support of the City Council and the city, I'd ask that you support this motion so that we can offer a reward to get some community members to come forward.
Thank you. I want to stress that none of the victims are present or their family members are present. Normally that's the case, but in this case they fear retaliation, as Captain Zach said, and I think the captain said it best yesterday at the press conference when she said that when a family or potential witnesses feel threatened to the extent that they don't want to come forward with their information, that we need to embrace them as a community and let them know that we will not stand for this kind of violence in our community. And so we would reach out to those people who might have information, and in this particular case, the police department absolutely believes that there's more information out there. There were many witnesses, and some of the suspects are fairly reputable gangs. So So I think this reward motion can be very helpful in providing that shield, that protection, that feeling that we are going to protect this family or any witnesses that might come forward. And I would ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alarcon, and thank you as well for being here. Let's prepare the roll on this item and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That's approved, and we'll send that forthwith without objection. We'll next take the commissioners, then we'll go to public comment, and then I know Mr. Koretz has an item out of order after that. If we can take the first two commissioners together. And as you come forward to the table, I'd like to recognize Ms. Hahn, our chair of our TCT committee, who I know had a good, robust hearing yesterday in the port. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're here today to confirm two folks to the very important and powerful Harbor Commission of Los Angeles, and I will tell you that we are really at a critical point with the Port of Los Angeles. It is our economic stimulus package. It is about continuing that port to be competitive, that port to continue to create good jobs. This port is responsible for millions of dollars in the local economy, billions of dollars nationwide. It's responsible for the global economy. There are also critical issues facing the Port of Los Angeles in terms of its responsibility to its communities of San Pedro and Wilmington. There's a waterfront project that should be and can be completed soon, both in San Pedro and Wilmington, which will increase tourism to Los Angeles. There's a high school that bears the name of the Port of Los Angeles, a charter high school that has critical issues in the future that need to be addressed by the Commission. There's a group of people that want to bring the USS Iowa to San Pedro and have it docked in our harbor, which would also be an attraction regionally and nationally. There's a group that wants to build a state-of-the-art shipyard in the Port of Los Angeles. There are so many critical issues facing the port, and the mayor has nominated Robin Kramer and Dave Arian to fill two vacant slots on this Harbor Commission. And I will tell you, I can stand here today and with great pleasure really give my approval to both of these commissioners. I have known Dave Arian the longest and am a huge fan of his and respect his work on the docks for years. This man has a working knowledge of the Port of Los Angeles. This man has been a critical part of ILWU and advancing the agenda of the working men and women on that port. This man cares about the security issues. He cares about the health issues. And he's a San Pedran. Dave Arian will be filling the slot, according to our city charter, that must be given to someone who lives within the harbor area. He represents San Pedro. He represents the community. He represents people who have a real love and concern for what goes on at the Port of Los Angeles. And of course, Robin Kramer comes to us with great experience right here in City Hall. Robin Kramer has the skills and the political knowledge and the instincts on how to move things forward in our sometimes overwhelming bureaucracy. And so I think both of these folks bring an incredible perspective to the Port of Los Angeles. So I hope you'll have a chance to listen to both of them and hear what I've heard in terms of what they can bring to the Port of Los Angeles. And let me take a moment to say, yesterday I held my Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee down in the harbor in San Pedro in the Port's Commission hearing room. We had over 100 people who wanted to come at 8:30 in the morning and speak their mind about the issues that will be facing Dave and Robin and the rest of the commission. These were 100 people, folks, who would have never come downtown Los Angeles. never come to my committee meeting had I held it on the 10th floor of this City Hall. It was about bringing government to the people of the Harbor area, and I was very impressed with the way Dave and Robin listened to every single speaker. Robin had a notepad where she was actually taking notes on things that people talked about and that they cared about. It was really overwhelming to see that many people care about 2 commission appointments and the impact that that would have on the future of the port, on quality of life issues, on hope and dreams that people have surrounding our harbor. Tom LaBonge joined me down there for the committee meeting, and I will tell you, colleagues, I was on the freeway racing back here. I pulled into the garage about 10:18. It was unfortunate that the President decided to adjourn our meeting at 10:15. I was on my way here. I was doing the city business, but I felt it was important to have this committee meeting down in the harbor. This is really about taking government to the people whose lives will be most impacted by the decisions that these 2 make. So if I have to apologize to the rest of you that I was not exactly here at 10 o'clock, I will do that. But I want to go on record saying I was doing the work of the people. I was doing city business, and I will say it was unfortunate that the President decided to cancel this meeting. It was unnecessary. I was in the garage. Anyway, if you'd like to open up by having both of you say a few words about your perspective on the harbor, about the challenges and the priorities that are before us at the Port of Los Angeles, I think that would be a good way for the rest of our colleagues to hear you and listen to your perspective.
Thank you, Janice. I'd just like to start off. Yesterday was an important meeting, but last night when I went and turned on the TV and saw that first miner come out of the mine shaft after 2.5 months, brought tears to my eyes.
Me too.
It was probably the most important thing where a fellow worker in a place like Chile went through what they went through, and they came out and they were positive. And the world was unified around that activity yesterday. And I turned on the TV this morning, and I saw they were in number 16 now, and they're all coming out. And it's a celebration, not only for workers around the world, but for all of us in terms of the kind of strength these people had and the kind of unity that was brought. I just wanted to raise that because working people, not only there, but on the waterfront, when I was president in 1984 and 85 of Local 13, we had 6 deaths. 6 people died in 5 months. And we were able to put in place the most advanced safety rules of any port in the world that were eventually adopted by OSHA standards nationally as a result of those deaths. Yesterday's meeting gave the community an opportunity to come together to express how they think the port should be operated. And I know that coming down to LA, there's 2 people here from the harbor area. Yesterday there was 100.
Yeah.
And that's what this city's about. This city is about this council unifying the city, which you do. But you can only unify it from your base. And that's what Janice did yesterday. And I think that's what all of you do when you go back to your districts and embrace the communities you represent. And I think that's an essential part of unifying the city because we are so diverse. And that leads me to yesterday's meeting, talking about the port. It was the most unified meeting. Everybody talked nice about me for the first time in my life. But the reality was you had the environmentalists there. You know, you had the labor unions there. You had all the different community groups there. You had the employer on the waterfront there. And they were all unified for the first time. After the meeting, one of the staff from the port said, and I says, I don't know how long this will last. She said, enjoy the honeymoon. Because it's good to have a unified honeymoon. It's a necessary process of a relationship, even though there will be differences as we go down the line. The challenge for the Port of LA and for the city is the Panama Canal. In 2014, the Panama Canal will be able to handle 90% of the ships coming from Asia running through the canal to the East Coast. that is the greatest economic challenge to the Port of LA and the Port of Long Beach and to the city. And if we do not prepare, if we do not improve the relations in the harbor area between the union, between the port, between the employer and the city, this is the only way we're going to move forward and be able to compete with the challenges that are coming in front of this port. We no longer have the monopoly. Up until now, the load center for the West Coast has been LA Long Beach. And I'll just tell you, when I came into the union in 1960s, there was 2,500 members in our local. And in San Francisco, there was 4,000. And in Portland, there was 1,800. And Seattle, there was 1,800. And in Tacoma, there was 1,000. Today, there are a combined membership of the three locals of nearly 10,000 workers in the LA area, in the port. There are 1,000 in San Francisco, 400 in Portland, 400 in Seattle, and 500 in Tacoma. And what I'm trying to say, we have become the load center for America. And we have taken that advantage, and that's what's made us great. But we didn't have any challenge. Now the challenge is, where do we go from here? I think I have the experience on the waterfront. I understand the operations, and we got a couple critical questions facing us. Number one, the Panama Canal. Number two, working in the legislative arena in Washington and here and in the state, securing the kind of money that is necessary to expand the port. But more important than that, we need a relationship with the environmentalists, and no port can grow today without support from the environmental community in that area. And LA has already stepped forward. Antonio's program for a clean air port, the CAP program, is the most advanced program in the country and has set the standard worldwide, and LA did that. And I intend to push that program as heavily as I can. I don't want to go on much longer. I could talk about a lot of particulars, but I'm sort of honored to be nominated first by Janice Hahn and then appointed by the mayor and hopefully supported here by the city council today. But the last thing I wanted to say is, I really appreciate Tom coming down to the harbor. I've seen him there a number of times. He brings that energy and that working class, and the best thing I like about Tom is he's good into high school football, and so am I. I go to the football games every year. Friday night is Pedro Banning, which is a big game of the year, and I don't miss it. But I'm enthusiastic about this. I'm particularly working with Mrs. Kramer, I'm sorry, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you for this opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. Very good.
What a pleasure and an honor to have been nominated to
Why don't you bring the microphone a little bit closer
to serve on this important, vital commission for the city and to be involved in public service for the city of Los Angeles in a different way than previous, and also to have been nominated at the same time as this shy, quiet gentleman to my left. The port is the engine for the economy of our city, our region, and our nation, and it's one of the jewels of the city of Los Angeles. The people who make it go and its own history provide for us the opportunity and the responsibility to build here a vital future. At the same time that we're running a global business, and the steps, the vision that the mayor has taken and that all of you have supported for the Clean Air Action Plan, for the Clean Trex program, it reminded me that many years ago in this chamber there was a councilman, Marvin Browdy, who had this idea that there shouldn't be smoking in public places, and people thought he was crazy. And he came back again and again and again, and after 11 years, the city of Los Angeles, with his leadership and the support of the council and the mayor at that time, began a new healthy approach to the vital way that people lived. And if we are stalwart and forward-looking in the same way, the work that we do on behalf of the port, the city of Los Angeles, will have the same forward action globally in terms of its double bottom lines of vitality in jobs, vitality in health, that this previous set of actions taken here by the council fomented. So it's an honor and a pleasure to be sitting on this side of the table, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thanks.
We have colleagues, and there's 2 speaker cards.
Right, and I believe we have to make a motion to reopen public comment.
You wish to make that?
Let's do that, because I think there's 2 people who have traveled from the harbor area that would like to weigh in on this.
Okay, without objection, we will hear from the 2 public speakers and the colleagues. Norman Tweck, if that's T-W-E-K or T-W-C-K? T-U-C-K?
No.
Norman
Just like Friar Tuck. Thank you.
All right, Norman. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Good morning to one and all, and this is a wonderful opportunity to come up here and address you a little bit about my dear friend David Arian. David and I have been lifelong friends since the high school time. He and I were working partners throughout our whole life on the waterfront. That was some 40 years ago. But I'd like to stop there for just 1 second and put my heart out to the family of the presentation that was made earlier by the officers of the LAPD. I can say now that I was a jury foreperson on a horrific murders at the Masonic Temple in Lakewood that we just finished off. And so my heart goes out when you talk about people coming forward and trying to help the community and help parents. My heart goes out to that family and to you officers that have to handle those kind of situations. But and let me then get back to David. David and I are past officers of the Longshore Local in the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach. We served many, many years in that capacity. I also served on Janice's brother's task force, past Mayor Jim Hahn. I served 13 months in his task force beginning the Clean Air Project in the ports of Los Angeles. And I forced, I think, the Port of Long Beach to begin to communicate with the Port of Los Angeles at that period of time in order to make a difference in our basin. I would ask that we get a very, very positive vote on behalf of both of the new possible commissioners, and that I can tell you as a lifelong friend and co-worker of David, I retired out of his night ship gang some 4 years ago now, and I'm very proud of what David has done for the community, for our labor organization, and what he will do for this city as a port commissioner. With that, my time is up, and I thank you so much, and please vote positive for both.
Thank you. Bobby Olvera.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I rise today here in support of Mr. Arian. They call him David. I've known him my whole life. Everybody spoke about the importance of the Port of Los Angeles. We all know that. But the man sitting before you has worked from schlepping bananas over his shoulder to leading the local, the largest local on the West Coast, to going all the way to San Francisco and negotiating a contract for every worker in every port on the entire West Coast. He knows the waterfront. He knows the gangways. He knows the men. He knows the employers. And he's forged relationships during his time on the waterfront that bridge gaps. On a personal note, he was a man my father could always trust. My dad was an international representative for the ILWU. As I've come along, David has always been there. Not only speaking on behalf of the union, not only on behalf of San Pedro, but on behalf of people, on the communities, on families, on values. There's nothing more that can be said about the man. 10,000 longshoremen full-time in the Port of L.A., 8,000 casual workers in the Port of L.A. stand beside you today, Mr. Arian, and ask that you guys please move along this appointment. I applaud David's work in the port. There's no better man that could serve the Port of Los Angeles and the City of Los Angeles. He will do a fine job, and again, I congratulate you, David.
Zuma Dog.
Good morning.
No.
That was Zuma Dog, not the great beloved Councilman Rosendahl. Yes, I'd like to take a minute. I didn't plan on speaking, but I think it should be noted for the record that the commission appointee, Robin Kramer, worked for Eli Broad for many years, was loaned to Antonio Villaraigosa to be the chief of staff because that dummy certainly couldn't run the office, and Robin Kramer also worked for Richard Reardon. So Look how the city did. Robin Kramer's been running the city basically while Antonio's been out all over the place campaigning for everybody else. And look what's happened. So now we are taking this person who was the chief of staff of the city only until very recently, steps down, now boom, into this dream appointment at the harbor, quite a big thing we're talking about here. This is about as independent as putting Antonio in there himself, except it's even better because she's way smarter than him and can think of all the shady angles to screw us all.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, I did say good morning before, but after the Honorable Zuma Dog, it's always nice to be able to speak. First of all, welcome both of you to this new role in both of your lives to be a commissioner, and I think it's a great asset to the city to have both of you going for it. If I could just ask you first as the union man, you talked about competition. It is going to get more competitive. I know Mexico has a port. I know there's ports all over the country. How do you envision us staying competitive with our port?
Well, you know, the key to being competitive is obviously going to be the rails and rail lines. The key market that we're all competing for is the Midwest, and that's what we have to be able to service. We started the mini land bridge 35 years ago on rail and have been successful, but there's some roadblocks now. So rail is number one in terms of expanding. Number two, I think, is Antonio started this by developing a coalition between, labor, the environmentalist, and the community, as well as the people running the port, which are the individual operators. But there's two components that have been left out, in my opinion. And number one, it's small businesses in the harbor, and number two, the community in general. And I'm going to attempt to bring them in. And when you have that kind of unity, you can move the expansion of the port forward. If you got the environmentalists or the community fighting you, it took 5 years to approve the China shipping operation and expansion, and then TRAPAC. Finally, we have an understanding with the environmentalists, and we're able to move the port forward. That gives us a competitive advantage against every port in the country right now.
Right.
So, number three is really what has to happen is each terminal operator has their own business plan, and I think the port needs to pay more attention to what their business plans are, because some are effective and some are not. The more cans we push through, the more cans that go out, the more money we make, the more velocity, the more competitive we are. So I think we got to get ready for that. And then finally is the question of infrastructure. Without infrastructure, we can't compete. And that has a lot to do with what you guys do, what the state does, and the federal government does. But those are the essential factors in being competitive.
Well, I think your 4 points are very well taken, and I appreciate you articulating it. Robin, you were a great chief of staff, as you were for lots of other people. You really did help the mayor a lot, and I want to thank you for being chief of staff for those years there. When we look at wetland credits, which is a big deal to us with the Ballona wetlands and the other wetlands we have in the 11th district, those wetland credits have been going down to Orange County. Cindy Miskowski has also spoken about it and has taken a deep interest in seeing how we could get those wetland credits for us in Los Angeles. And I'd like to just challenge you to help us find some of those wetland credits so we can do land swaps and we can do other ecological things in the 11th district.
I hear you.
Very good, very good, very good. Let me just ask you, why are you going for this position?
Well, you know, I've been gone from city service for about a year, had the opportunity to refresh and renew and take care of my family, one generation up, one down. And when the mayor asked if I would consider this, I was deeply honored because it provides another opportunity for me to serve the city I love and with terrific colleagues and for a most important cause. And as Councilwoman said, the port is poised in so many ways. Like a good sports team, we have momentum. And what a delight and a great challenge to confront these complexities and opportunities all at once.
Well, thank you both for stepping up to the plate, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Rosendahl, for those questions, and to the two nominees for their willingness to serve and their articulateness. Clearly, Mr. Arian, I just wanted to point out that we've enjoyed having your son in City Hall as well, and he's been a contributor, so the family precedes you and you can be a very proud father, but also just your ability to hone in very quickly on what the issues are at the local and the national and global level is extremely impressive. And Robin Kramer, you've been an amazing influence in my own life and the things that we've been able to work on together. I also wanted to single out Ms. Hahn. I think that we're well poised because of what Ms. Hahn has done over the last 9 years, which is to make sure the community is always at the table. And I wanted to drill a little bit deeper into some of the things that Ms. Hahn has been working on in some of the waterfront development. I know it's been a frustration of hers that she articulates, sometimes feeling a little bit lonely about that here, that there's a big bad port that, of course, first mission is trade, and I want to get back to that in a second too. But it's really nice to hear the small business piece too, because I think the key to that waterfront development is actually having businesses down there that the community can be linked to. But what is the right role for the port in terms of waterfront development in both of your opinions, and what should we, 10 years from now, see when we get down there at the Port of Los Angeles in a way that is also fiduciarily responsible to the main mission of the port?
Well, the port is a public entity. It's a business, but it's not AIG, and it's not out just for profit. It's out to maximize its efficiency in the way we compete and the money that can be raised. But then that money has to be used for the public interest, not just to keep generating more profits for the port. That port was built by all of us. That breakwater was built by this city, by this state, by this federal government, not by a corporation, not by Maersk or somebody else that benefits the most from the port. And so what we have to do, and I'm going in with a clear vision in terms of the interest of the community, the city, and the state, and this entire country, that port has to address these questions, not only in question of environment, but in question of that port is in a certain location that has to answer to those communities, San Pedro, Harbor City, and Wilmington. And over the years, I think the adjustments has been made to some degree, primarily because of Janice keeps pounding them. And, Janice nominated me, and I'm going to help Janice pound and be aggressive. We're going to get that Park Plaza. We're going to get it right away. We're going to get some other stuff that the port seems to be sitting on. And that's what I'm going in for. I've never been someone laying back. I'm waiting.
You don't strike me as that, sorry.
And one last comment. It's always good that the next generation is smarter than the last one, and that's true in my family.
Good. Ms. Kramer, any
I'd just say, we need to bring a sense of urgency. Any global business has diversified sources of revenue and income, and as a public entity, it's our responsibility to vitalize and maximize every bit of the assets of this incredible asset, of which the waterfront and all of its community-facing activities certainly are one.
Well, we hope the USS Iowa is going to be a big part of that, and obviously anything we can do to continue putting that forward. We hope that that the waterfront development continues apace. I think it's something that'll do well for all the people, especially those around the port, but also for those visitors that we want to attract and keep there. And my last question, because I know I'm out of time, is on the export side. What can we, President Obama has announced that he wants to triple the exports the U.S. has, and one of the biggest and saddest parts of the comments on where the American economy is now is, of course, the empty containers that don't go back, that they come, they keep coming, and we're not sending enough goods back. What can the port do to link up with the other pieces of this city's economic development engine, be it the other proprietary departments, an overall economic development strategy, to help L.A. have more in those cans, as it were, as they go back? Can the port be playing a role in that, or do you see that as, the port is just victim of whatever the rest of the entity of government and business does to produce those sorts of goods?
I think everyone involved in this new normal time has to change the way that the dots are connected. And certainly there are a variety of efforts right at the port already to vitalize and uplift economic development issues, clean technology, businesses related to transportation, logistics, etc. And there is an obvious set of dots to connect with the other proprietary departments and also the agencies of the state and the federal government that make policies distant from the street. And this is a commitment of the Commission to step up and be part of that work with all of you. You know, the port is buffeted by federal and international policy regarding free trade, and so we have to do the very best with those things that we do control. And certainly in tough times especially, collaboration, while not a panacea, certainly is a step up from not.
You know, during World War II, Bethlehem shipyards on Terminal Island was turning out, we had 100,000 people working, and they were turning out a Liberty ship every day to support the war effort. In crisis, the American people, American ingenuity has risen to that level. We're in crisis now in terms of what's produced here and what's not produced here. We got to look at a couple different things. One particular thing is the port is an engine, and in order to service the port and all the different parts of servicing that port creates the basis of whether it's an air filter or something new that has to do with the ecology, creates a condition for servicing a port and a new industry that can be spread across the country and around the world to every port in the world. We have to look at that as one aspect of how you increase production here in the city of LA that can be utilized throughout the world based on the strength we have in the port. But there's a series of other things we have to do, you know, and we have to pour the right money city-wise, state-wise, and federal-wise into the right areas in terms of developing these exports. There's a commodity right now which happens to be grain. And they're talking about shipping grain to China in containers, potentially through the port of LA and Long Beach. Grain is something that's produced here in America. It is an export. There are these opportunities. We still help feed the world. And we have to look in these areas and how we expand in those areas, and the port plays a direct role in that, in ensuring there's efficiency in delivering that commodity. So, I mean, there's a number of areas where we can pay more attention to that we're not.
Thank you both. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. LaBonge.
Thank you very much. Members, yesterday, in spirit with Mr. Rosendahl, but with Janice Hahn, we were all down in the Port of LA for the Trade Commission, Commerce Commission. And Janice and all members, I just say, it was exciting and very good to have a committee meeting. You know, sometimes we talk about council going out and meet. A committee meeting sometimes can do a lot more. So, Janice, I thank you for that. I wish you got all the green lights that I got coming up, but that's how it works out. Here's two great people. Robin, I don't know of another person in this city who has the experience that you have in a variety of politics and understanding, and also what you said in the opening remarks, Karen, about the top half of your family and the bottom half of your family. You always had your hands out to help people. You're going to help the Port of Los Angeles. Your knowledge truly will be helpful in every aspect that they say. And David, I want to thank you too. There's nothing like someone who grows up in a neighborhood who cares about it. And I actually want to repeat something, because I know our voting clerk will like it, because she's a 50th district resident, of the tragedy of the job movement. When you were at San Pedro High in '62, and if your buddies went up to PV where there were lots and there were no homes, and you just sat there and read poetry, which I'm sure you did, and you looked out there from Torrance to Long Beach, what did you see?
Well, you know, we could go to work anywhere out of high school. You could go into all the way to San Fernando Valley, where they had the auto plant, and in Torrance they had all the steel and aluminum plants, and then you moved into the middle region where they had the oil fields and the oil plants, and you went to aerospace, and in the harbor area you had the shipyards, you had the canneries, and you had the waterfront, and you could go to work anywhere, and that doesn't exist today. The only real engine you have left in the harbor and in that entire region, other than small business, is the port. The shipyards are gone. Everything is gone. And that's why our young people are out on the streets, and that's why we have the problem we have today, because we don't have jobs. Within 3 years of coming out of high school, you could go to work at any one of those plants. You could get married, you could buy a house, and you could establish yourself. That doesn't exist for young people today, and I think that's important.
Right, and that voice is so important that you're going to bring. And also I want to thank you first, too, for what you said about what's happening in Chile. I think the whole human spirit has been uplifted by the work there, the saving of those workers. And when you spoke with your heart. That was right on the top of your mind, and that's where you've always been. I want to ask you, too, to look at some things there. Ms. Hahn has a great philosophy about the port and the commerce end and also the community end, which is key. That's why I love coming down there so much. And the work on the waterfront is key. I just spent 2 days up in the Bay Area. I all saw the ships going to Oakland. Oakland's driving their port up a little bit. But the waterfront in San Francisco has a lot of tourists, which are real important. And I think we've got to look at that angle to try to enhance it. It's a very wonderful spirit when you get near water. And to see the operation of the port and to green it, those are key. So I wanted to ask you to continue that effort there. And also, issues, what is Long Beach Port in Los Angeles? The commissions ever meet? Is there anything we do together? And the one thing I also feel so bad about, and I know Mr. Reyes has been the champion here on this, is the Los Angeles River sometimes leaves a lot of debris in Long Beach. And to clean that aspect up, what was mentioned earlier about Mr. Rosendahl and the wetlands, any thoughts on that, either one of you?
Well, the Port Commissions actually are meeting the end of, I guess, this month again. You know, for years, we're competitors and brothers and sisters at the same time. And certainly the passage of the Clean Air Action Plan has bound us together at the, environmental hip. And we have a great deal that we must do together, even though our operations differ and our client base is somewhat different.
So I think that's key to do that, David.
Yeah, Mayor Foster of Long Beach and Antonio have worked together. The Clean Air Program has brought two ports together. Although the Port of Long Beach took a very weak position in terms of workers' rights, in terms of the Clean Air Program, LA took a very strong position. But even when you got differences, you can still work together, and I think that's what's happening. In terms of tourism, San Pedro has a great opportunity because there's so many ethnic groups in San Pedro and they're connected to people all over the world. We've never really used that as one of the attractions for tourism in the harbor area. From the Asia Pacific to Croatia to Italy to you name it, we got it in San Pedro. And we got all the food. We got all the food down there. We got all the restaurants that represent all these different ethnic groups. And we've never really been able, and the port has never really been able to tap into that, or the city into that, to develop the kind of tourism that can be worker-based, ethnic-based, and just about what America and the world's all about. We have that opportunity, but it hasn't been exploited.
Well,
we need to.
I appreciate that. I did see also some tall guys. There's tall guys in San Pedro, but some tall guys up in San Francisco who were pro-Iowa staying up in the Bay. So we may have to have a little discussion with those. But I think that's important. Cruise ship is important. All that is real key to the whole component. Shipbuilding, so I just wanted to thank you for all what you can do. And members of the council, this is if first-round draft choices were selected by our team, by the general manager, Antonio Villaraigosa, the mayor, to say, let's do a special thing here. It's a great combination. Also, I want to give a shout-out to Cindy Misikowski, our former colleague, who reads everything, so that's the key to Cindy. Give her our regards. Tell her we miss her reading. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you both commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much. It's obvious with the dialogue that you've expressed this morning, you're certainly reminding us that you're very committed and you're very talented, so I wanted to personally thank you for the free time that you're donating to the people of Los Angeles to be on this commission that takes up many, many hours a week, thousands of hours a year, and you're doing it for free. So I just want to remind the public that this is not a paid job, this is a volunteer job. So thank you so much for your diligence. A lot has been talked about, but one thing that I'd like to put on the record is that apparently there's an opportunity for diversity to occur once again at the port. And you very eloquently pointed out that when the Panama Canal changes its ability, it is going to have an impact on our port here in Los Angeles and our neighbor Long Beach. And so diversity is even more important, especially when it comes to good-paying jobs. And it's my understanding that there is a private developer, a private firm, that is willing to do something that some people are calling silly, crazy, or business-wise dumb, is they're willing to expend over $50 million of their own money to put a shipyard in the Port of Los Angeles. But it's my understanding that the person who runs the Port of Los Angeles, that answers to the board, is actually vehemently against it, mainly based on one hinging factor, or I'm calling it a factor, not a fact, and that is that it could possibly interfere with the dredging schedule that the federal government is expecting us to follow. But the fact that the port, in my opinion, has dragged their feet, they may inadvertently bring truth to their argument. Obviously, if they drag their feet and drag it along, then perhaps this interference of timing might even take place. It's also my understanding that we had a godsend of a situation pop up where our neighboring port, Long Beach, actually said, instead of using that dredged material and putting it and making some feral land out of some nice land that should or could be a shipyard, we'll take your dredged material right next door to Long Beach. And it's my understanding that opportunity after opportunity has opened up for us to make sense here and actually seriously consider whether or not the shipyard should or could be built. So my challenge to you, new board members, is to not believe what the port is saying, but read it for yourself. Look over the material yourself. Speak to the federal government, the Army Corps of Engineers yourself. Do that yourself. Because unfortunately, Robin, I don't know if this has ever happened to you. I've only been a council member, an elected official in this city for 7 years. But there has been an occasion where the bureaucrats have in fact told us something that wasn't in fact accurate. And there was an agenda behind that inaccuracy. And in this particular case, I would hate for anybody to fall for an agenda that would cost 500, 1,000 great paying jobs, and actually the real organization that is being put at risk here is this private crazy guy who's willing to put $50 million of his own money into a shipyard that some people are saying isn't going to work. I happen to believe that if he's smart enough to plan it out and he's willing to put out over $50 million into the shipyard, maybe he's right. And if he's right, we're going to be on the better side of 500 plus to 1,000 great paying jobs, and we're going to bring diversity to the port. I only get 3 minutes. My time is up, so I just wanted to put that in your ear. Please focus on that, because time is now. This has been going on for months, now years, and we really need to fish or cut bait on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hahn, to close.
Thank you. There's so much to talk about and never enough time, but I hope you colleagues will see what I've seen this morning, that we have two great people, completely different, but bringing the kind of perspective that I think is important as we move forward. And I think what's important is certainly remaining competitive. I mean, this is really the job creation, the job retention engine in the city of Los Angeles. 3 years ago, when that cargo started going down, we saw before really almost anyone else that the housing market was about to collapse, because one of the #1 imports was furniture coming through the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles, and we knew that things were going very badly in the housing market. When there's a lot of jobs that are associated with the Port of Los Angeles, but I will say the longshore jobs, and Dave knows this more than anyone, are key to the economy in Los Angeles, particularly to the local economy in the harbor area. When that cargo started going down in the past year and came dangerously low, folks were out of work. They didn't get work. The casuals who looked forward to some of those jobs weren't working. And you know what happened in our local economy? The restaurants started doing badly. The hotels started doing badly because people weren't taking cruises. Things really are connected to the Port of Los Angeles. And I know restaurants that almost went under because they depended on the longshore folks coming in and spending their money in the local economy. So it is so critical that we remain competitive. It's also critical that we remain green. We can have good jobs and clean air. In fact, I think what, Dave, you kind of talked about, we've really created a laboratory out there. And the mayor's insistence that we grow that port green has spawned new technologies, new businesses. PortTech LA, which is a collaboration between the port and the Chambers of Commerce to incubate a green technology, innovative businesses, is exactly what you're talking about. And I think those businesses, that technology can be exported because, you know, so go we, so goes the rest of the world. And ports everywhere are going to be beginning to clean up their act because that they know that they cannot grow until they begin to handle the pollution that has been emitted by ports. So we remain green, we remain strong, and we actually spawn an entire new industry of green technology and jobs. So congratulations. I'm sure you're going to get a unanimous support here today. I am looking forward to working with both of you to promote the agendas that I know are so critical to the future of Los Angeles and really the nation. Thank you. I ask for an aye vote for both Robin Kramer and Dave Aaron.
Now the suspense begins. Robin Kramer. All right, colleagues, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Congratulations. You both confirmed. Forthwith.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, we have another commissioner.
Yes, sir. That brings us to item number 5, the appointment of Ms. Marissa Castro Salvati to the Board of Taxicab Commissioners.
All right, please come forward. And good morning. As Mr. Labange greets our nominee. And we will go to Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell me, why are you stepping up to be an airport commissioner?
Well,
and tell us about your background as well.
First of all, good morning to everyone, city council members and everybody in the audience. In terms of why my interest, I think one of the commissions, I'm a former civil service commissioner, and I recently resigned for that commission due to some other things in terms of workload. But I thought that this particular commission was something that I can actually lend some of my expertise and some of my ideas pertaining to greening the community. I work for Southern California Edison. I'm one of the public affairs region manager. I handle 8 cities in the West San Gabriel Valley. And in that area as well, we have multiple cities that have been doing a lot of different greening in the communities, but also doing a lot of issues related to taxi cabs. And I do have some relationships in those cities that do have that type of industry. So I thought I could lend my hand being a former civil service commissioner, but also my background is with Southern California Edison and being involved in different communities.
We're delighted you're stepping up to it. We're in the process of making a decision about our cabs. We have 2,300 cabs. We have 9 franchises, 7 different holders of it, and the desire is to green the cabs. Do you see us being able to do that? Their strategy is to give them a 5-year renewal or a 2-year whatever. What's your take on how we can green our cabs?
Well, I think we are in a current environment where I think greening the community is truly important. And working for Southern California Edison, I think I can lend my expertise in terms of doing information on plug-in electric vehicles. Edison is actually in the forefront of making sure that plug-in electric vehicles is out in the communities. And I think with my understanding and also the ability to actually share some information with the commission, I can actually probably help to make a decision in terms of what is best for the community and for the city of LA. And of course, taking the direction from the council as to how we can better the taxi cab franchises.
Have you met with any of the taxi cab owners or with LATFA, the community group, or any of the people associated with cabs?
No, but I actually do know of independent contractors, and that's on the respective cities that I work with. I was previously contacted by somebody who happens to, I guess, work with one of the franchise, but I have not had a conversation with the individual.
Okay. Well, thank you for stepping up to the plate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Ms. Hahn.
That's great. Oh, hi, Marissa.
Hi.
Are you being appointed to this, or are you reappointed?
Well, I resigned from civil service, so I stepped down from civil service.
I see. Okay, because I knew you were a commissioner. Colleagues, Marissa used to be my colleague at Southern California Edison. We came in together. We were hired sort of as the freshman class in 1995.
We don't want to say that year.
Somewhere around there. And we were really sort of the new group at this utility, and we were able to work with organizing communities to understand issues facing the utility. Marissa and I were there when the state of California began having rolling blackouts. And Marissa and I were responsible for working with cities, working with communities, and trying to get through the energy crisis that the state faced. So I think your teeth were cut, as was mine, on a crisis, a real crisis in the state of California in terms of energy. I think you bring a great perspective to this. I have real issues with our taxi cab industry. I've met many times with the taxi cab drivers. They have a lot of issues. And I think we're at a time in Los Angeles when we can really begin to give them the franchises and the contracts and the comfort that they need, while we also can, I believe, get some concessions from these operators and this industry. I think taxi cabs are so important in Los Angeles. It's the face of hospitality for many people coming into Los Angeles, and we need to give the drivers respect. I think they need dignity, and I think they need to make the kind of wages that they can support their family on. So there's a lot of issues, and I'd love to work with you on some of them, but I so wholeheartedly support you. I saw you on a commercial, on the Edison commercial. There I was watching TV. You did a great job. You're a great spokesperson for that utility. You're a good face for an investor-owned utility, and I've always admired your work, and I think you bring a great background and a great perspective to the taxi cab industry, and I'd love to spend time with you and let you know some more of my issues I have.
Well, thank you very much. I am looking forward to hopefully working closely with not only the commissioners but the staff and making sure that we make the right decisions and listen to both sides.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Rosendahl, this was submitted through committee without a recommendation. Do you want to make a recommendation for approval on this?
Enthusiastically recommend approval.
Was there a reason why there was no recommendation out of committee?
No.
Okay, so you recommended it?
Yes.
Okay, so with recommendation for approval.
Yes.
Mr. Labange?
This is a great public servant.
There we go. Okay, just make it clear for the record. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Congratulations.
Thank
You've
you
been
very
confirmed.
much. Looking forward to working with everybody.
Thank you. All right, we'll now go to public comment, colleagues. But, Mr. Cardenas, you did have a request on number 12. Pardon me? Out of order. Mr. Parks, can we do that quickly? We do have public comment, but if we can move that forward.
That's good.
Number 12.
We can ask the clerk
number
to go
12,
out of
please.
order. Be glad to. Colleagues, it's rare that we have an opportunity to not only do good in the city of Los Angeles, but also impact the rest of the United States. Number 12 is really capturing the previously approved city policy as it relates to dealing with community-based gang intervention, the services, the funding and things of that nature, and moving it into a federal legislative package under H.R. 3526. It also is the first time in the history that we can find that a piece of legislation on the federal level will carry the name of a Los Angeles City Council member, and that is Tony Cardenas, and this bill will be known as the Tony Cardenas Community-Based Intervention Act, H.R. 3526. The work of the advisory committee in the city created a national discussion about juvenile justice, and including a visit by Congressman Bobby Scott, the author of Youth Promise Act. We found that in this new legislation, as a result of work that was created in the city's ad hoc Committee on Gang Violence and Youth Development and the Human Relations Commission, and they met for over 2 years with community groups to develop the city's program that's now been pushed into federal legislation. Some of the advisory group members that helped craft this with the City of Los Angeles is Aztec Rising, HOMI, Unidos, okay, thank you. Soledad Enrichment Action in CD14, Crush and Toberman Settlement House in CD15, Community Bill, Maximum Force Enterprises, and the Youth Justice Coalition serving Council Districts 8, 9, and 10 in the Los Angeles County Public Defender's Office. The community-based gang intervention model and evaluation measurements were approved by the Council in February 2008, and for the first time in 30 years, there is now a clear definition and evaluation measure that explains what intervention is. To date, There are many states that are following suits on this community-based gang intervention model. Texas, Denver, City Council, the Houston City Council, Miami-Dade School Board, the state of Maryland, and the state of Illinois. And I think it is certainly, one of those issues that I've had the pleasure of being at a press conference with Mr. Cardenas a couple of years ago when this was getting off the ground. But I don't think he just came on this at this time. I think when you go back and look at the state legislation that he created about gangs and intervention, it's just a carryover. Now he comes to the City Council and creates it for the City of LA and is moving forward on a federal level. And I just think we should acknowledge Tony and his hard work that now he's going to be impacting as this legislation goes through, and we hope it gets approved, that it will be impacting every state in the union. And so I want to just bring that to the public's attention and commend Tony for what work he's been doing.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Thank you. I know you're humble, Mr. Cardenas, but you did press your button to speak.
I wasn't going to speak on this, but since Councilmember Parks said some nice things about me, I was raised to say thank you. So I just wanted to raise my microphone to say thank you very much. But also, Councilmember Parks, I think to thank you on behalf of all of us that developed this policy that is now a great model to be emulated and also adopted and modified throughout all jurisdictions in the country so that we can reduce the violence, reduce the killings, and get more of our children back on the right track. It's an accolade mostly of the community of Los Angeles, the intervention workers, the prevention folks, the great organizations that have brought us to this point, and also the researchers and the people who have actually now been able to document that these programs, when run properly and when people are open to proper change, do a great and wonderful job of saving lives. So I just wanted to say thank you, Councilmember Parks, for your accolades, but those accolades not only go to the policymakers, but equally or perhaps more importantly, the people who are working night and day out there in the streets to make sure that this gets implemented in a way that's effective and saves lives. And also to Congresswoman Watson, thank you so much for carrying this legislation, and it should permeate throughout the country, and we expect and hope that we have success in Washington to make sure that more communities can do what we've been able to do and that we're perfecting every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you. I wanted to also rise and say this is really such an important bill that Congressmember Watson has carried. She's on her last few months of being a congresswoman. She's leaving such a great legacy, but this is key, and I really wanted to stand up here and also thank Tony. I spent many long hours in Tony's committee, the ad hoc committee on gang violence in Los Angeles. We held hearings at UCLA, long hearings here, and what we were able to do through Tony's leadership was really focus on this level of gang violence, and that was the intervention workers. And I believe we raised the awareness. And we raised awareness of the actual job description that intervention workers do. Because many people, it was sort of a very vague area out there where we knew people were out there working. We didn't exactly know what they did. LAPD was not really sure how they could work with them. But I think through your work, Tony, you really brought to a level a critical piece of ending gang violence, and not only in Los Angeles, but now nationally. And we know that it's about preventing kids from joining gangs in the first place, but it's really about intervention, and those people who are willing to put their lives on the line and work with, very violent situations that could go either way, and work to keep violence from escalating in a particular situation. I am always lamenting what did not happen here in Los Angeles, which would have been the passage of Measure A, which would have raised $30 million annually in this city to fund intervention programs and to fund gang prevention programs. It lost by less than 0.5 percentage point. Voters were willing to tax themselves because they knew that it's not just about more police officers on the street. It's really about all these levels of preventing violence, and intervention is a key piece of it. We had an incident in Watts last week where intervention workers really helped to quell which could have been a very violent situation. There was an officer-involved shooting of someone in one of our housing developments, and we saw recently in Los Angeles how sometimes that doesn't go down well with the community, and we've seen near riots in this city based on those incidents. But intervention workers working with the community were able to keep the peace and prevent more violence. This is a significant bill, but Tony, you really take a lot of credit for really bringing intervention workers in, yeah, it should have your name on this bill, into a new light, and I really enjoyed working with you on that, and it was hard work. It was hard work to get to this point to let people have the vision of all the different levels that we need to put into place to prevent violence, not only in Los Angeles, but in every big city. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Garcetti, followed by Mr. Labange.
Thank you, and well said, Ms. Hahn, and by everybody else. Thank you, Tony, for what you've done to change the paradigm here, and at the national level. It just speaks volumes of that impact. Mr. Parks and I were at the press conference yesterday with Mr. Villaraigosa with many of those intervention workers who are part of the statistics from this year's Summer Night Lights, and there was a 40% reduction in crime. There was a 57% reduction in gang-related homicides. This stuff works. And I just wanted to rise to make a small amendment to how we agendize this and move this to make sure it's in the in how we put this forward, to amend it to say, in terms of the description of this, the HR 3526 Watson, Tony Cardenas Community-Based Gang Intervention Act. I think it should be put there in the title. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much. I think when you look back in time, Tony, the word infrastructure was not part of our vocabulary. Now it is. Your work put the word intervention in the vocabulary helping young people. Your work made that happen. So all this is a great credit. And Diane Watson is a great congresswoman who really sees that. Her work as a senator, her work as a member of the school board, the teamwork, the relationships. And Ms. Hahn and Mr. Parks articulated great things. So I want to stand and congratulate you, because it's when you diagram a word that hits a point that makes something happen. And I heard all the hearings when I was in my office that you had here. You made a difference and continue to make a difference in the lives of people. Thank you, Tony Cardenas.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. This matter is now before us with the amendment by Council President Garcetti to add the title Cardenas. So, Mr. Clerk, do you have that noted?
Yes, sir.
All right. Colleagues, open the roll. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Very good. Congratulations, Mr. Cardenas. We will now go to public comment to the San Fernando Valley. Rick Nightingale in the San Fernando Valley.
Good morning, Rick Nightingale. I thought it was a dirty shame bunch of you dogs didn't show up yesterday. I'll tell you, that's what you are. You're a bunch of dogs. You get paid for something and you can't even do your job to come here and that stuff. And I think there should be a stiff fine against you. Let's go back to the election thing now. I'll tell you, you people have to get out and vote. You have to get out and vote. Like Obama, we need a change. Boy, do we need a change. And it's up to you people to do the change. Everybody's condemning Meg about what she's done. But who would spend that much money if she didn't have that much heart? Same as she comes down to Los Angeles here about the police department and the way the news media don't cover it completely, gives you half of it. Where the Los Angeles Protection League, she talked to them. She didn't offer them any deal about the retirement because it's locked in. But no, they give you the false statement and all that. I'm telling you, I don't believe in Democrat, Republican, Independent, and so forth. But you people better vote Republican. I'm telling you, that's the only way you're going to get out of this thing. I have never thought that way before, but that's the only way you're going to get out of this situation. Because the Democrats want to give everything away, and the only way you're going to get out of this is jobs. If you can't get jobs in the city of Los Angeles, there's no way you're going to do it unless you get jobs or you lay people off and that stuff, because that's the only way the government can turn around and make money. That is why we're in this predicament, because everybody lost their jobs and so forth. And the one person that's saying about jobs is Meg. Brown says, we're going to do it with green. How many panels of green are we going to put in? Like windmills? Would you like to have a windmill behind your house? And how many can afford solar panels? I want to put it in, but I don't have $40,000 to put $80,000 worth in. You better vote. Thank you.
Donna Pearman. In the San Fernando Valley. Donna Pearman.
Okay. Anyway, also not too happy what you did yesterday. Wait till 10:30 next time. Anyway, what I want to do, I need to warn you about a little discussed proposition that could literally dry up Los Angeles. Proposition 22. 25 has been discussed, but 22 will also destroy Proposition 13 and say no on 25 too. It will take the CRA money, will take from schools, libraries, parks, and recs. Howard Jarvis, you should realize that CRA takes money needed for local services. The subsidized city services after many, you need to subsidize city services after money is taken from the CRA. So you have to raise property taxes. Therefore, they'll have to get rid of the two-thirds vote. Anyway, Proposition 2 is a redevelopment's dream. Community Redevelopment Agency, CRA, will be able to complete every project. Also, where the transit projects, CRA will follow with extra projects. Do you hear that, Mr. Rosendahl? They will, anyway, we'll have the Grand Avenue projects, the Rich Man's Playground, with a few projects for the poor, like Dennis P. Zine Community Center. At what cost? Huge buildings instead of essential city services. Pretty soon, no libraries. Schools will suffer. All the city services will be hurt except for the DWP. It will probably be privately owned. Our city is using all our money on redevelopment. Our rents and property tax will go sky high, especially if Prop 25 passes. With it, letting other pet projects of the city council and the state pass. What would you rather have? Essential city services we always had, hard-working city employees, families, or huge big development, big buildings with no plumbing because the CRA will take away from sanitation.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Marianne
no on
Vogler.
22.
Good morning.
Well, for sure the jobs will be gone and people will be leaving because CRA, they want to get rid of the indigenous. So that's the whole objective, folks, of this agency, and that's Proposition 22. And I saw here the city council sitting down, Howard Jarvis, taxpayer, hjta.org, call them and tell them that you don't know why they're supporting the opposition, opposing Proposition 22. They need to oppose this. It's a backroom deal around, it's undermining 13. All it's doing, it's circumventing around it by taking away your tax money that you pay your property tax, folks, for your police, fire, paramedics, libraries, recs and parks, your daycare centers. Everything that we have, essential services here in the city, are being depleted and being diverted to the CRA. And that's how what they do is they take that money and then they give it to the developers. They find them and then they plan the buildings. And the big thing about it is that they get the tax money away off the tax roll. That property is now, the property taxes are going to the CRA instead of going to regular payment to the tax rolls. So I'm telling you, you need to oppose Proposition 22. They were sitting here and they don't want the money to be taken from the CRA because it's supposed to be for the city. They don't want it to go to the state of California. That's why they supported 22, get on the ballot. They went to the Sacramento. It's not an initiative ballot, folks. It's a ballot. Was put on by our legislature. They are working hand in hand, just like Antonio and hand in hand, standing next to Obama on Prop R. This is all in collusion together to build. But where are the jobs? It's going to be a ghost town here, folks. They're going to suck the blood out of us. No on 22. No
Thank
on
you.
25.
Walter Bechtel.
Good morning. Good morning, still. I wanted to say something about people who are offering rewards. I think that the people that go to get the rewards need to understand in this city, when you witness and turn somebody in like that, you need to take an assessment of what this city is going to do to you after you do or don't get your reward. If you looked at the statistics of people actually collecting their rewards or being able to collect their rewards, it's much lower than the amount of the people who actually turn in these criminals. The city doesn't always pay out that reward. In my case, I did not only not get a reward for saving Mr. Menker's life in 1992, in the case of the People versus Harvey Lee Clark, but right after that and since then, this city has taken out against me from everything from refusal to arrest people who commit felony crimes against me to evicting me from the hotel in which I live. My rent now is almost triple of what I had to pay in a torturous Ford Hotel, the notorious Ford Hotel. And yet they want you to come in and turn these criminals in. You need to understand that this city doesn't care less about the victims at all. They care more about the criminals. And if you're going to turn in this person, you need to take assessment of where you're at. You probably need to consider seriously moving out of the city. I'm stuck. But I just want to tell you what they've done to me and what they continue to do to me. And that's what's going to happen to you, too.
Dr. Williams.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Also, LA 32 Neighborhood Council. Problem. Yesterday, and during the DWP hearings for ratepayers advocate or ombudsman or inspector general, one fundamental question has always arisen. Who's in charge? Is it the mayor? Is he in charge? Is it the council? Is it the many boards and commission? Because why do we have accounts receivable? Isn't that a departmental duty? Are the departments not doing their duty? Who tells them to do their duty? I don't know. Maybe it should be the mayor. Maybe it should be the commissioners that you just approved. But there seems to be a total lack of accountability and authority. So what do? We go and let's develop a new department that can be either the collection sheriff, that's a new one. It can be an inspector general for everybody other than the DWP, or it can be a ratepayer. I don't know. It just seems that nobody seems to know who's in charge and who is responsible for exercising the authority to collect money and to impose fees. Because I got my tax roll bill yesterday, and there's a new fee from the City of Los Angeles on it, just below the stormwater. It seems like we have to pay the county, but other people within the City of Los Angeles don't seem to have to pay, even though they provide and receive services from the city. So I would highly recommend that you have a citywide inspector general. But don't we have a controller? Can't we just authorize the controller to do the work?
Thank you. Arnold Sachs.
Thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. I really wanted to congratulate you, Councilman Cardenas, for your discussion when you were talking about the commissioners and the action about the shipbuilding. And you said something about sometimes the stories from political groups aren't necessarily true. They're more fictional. So I was thinking, because I wanted to discuss this yesterday regarding the meeting on the 6th, that you had here, the Budget and Finance Committee report relative to the preliminary financial report of the city's financial operations for the last fiscal year. Mr. President, you mentioned that the city at the end of the year, you wanted to congratulate the Budget and Finance Committee because they ended the year with $171 million in the reserve fund, and the target was $205 million. So I thought, well, you might have had more if you'd taken the extra $20 million from the DWP that was offered when you were discussing the rate increases. And you might have had more if you had saved the $26 million that you had on the table for the raises that you gave to city employees. But you had to give those raises because you had the layoffs. But you had another option. You had the ERIP, the Early Retirement Program, which you capped. So how many people were laid off? Well, this story says there were 1,700 cuts supposed to be happening. By the way, it's October 1st. We haven't had any cuts. And this one said, on the 5/27, 1,761 layoffs. And this one said, on 7/20, 328 full-time employees. And this one said another 328 full-time employees. And the Villa Ragosa plan said 750 workers would be cut. And this one said 700 or 1,700 employees would be cut. And this one said 1,761 employees. And this one said 790. And this one said 323. And Jan Perry said 4,000. So how many goddamn employees were cut?
Thank you, Matt Dowd.
Yes, very funny. Good stuff, man. Look at all those clippings, man. He's been busy. But why am I here wasting my time talking to the city council who doesn't listen, obviously, because it's been 4 years and you've done nothing. I've got 12 musicians at Venice Beach on a federal case, and I want Rich Llewellyn. Can I have a meeting with Rich Llewellyn so I can organize to file a summary motion for summary judgment? Let me just have that meeting. Can I do that? See, Bill Rosendale's got an attorney, Norman Kohler or whatever. I don't know what he does, but he definitely doesn't do it with me. Emails, phone calls, nothing. I've emailed him all kind of plans. I joined this Oceanfront Walk Committee. There's all these things I've tried to do to the city, but it's still a brick wall. So I'm just going to go for the summary judgment if that's what you want. So I need some kind of action, or I'm just going to keep showing up. We'll talk about all the bad things. You know, you could have another $40 million if you didn't have that elephant exhibit. That could be in the reserve fund. You could spend $1 million and ship that elephant away. And, you know, why don't you get Disney or some of these people here, you know, in Hollywood to make a ride, have an elephant ride. And Hollywood does that kind of thing. Look at Universal Studios. Why don't you have a virtual thing, you know, let them run it, make money out of them doing it, because that's what they do, and they do it well. Like the Simpsons ride. Yeah, that's got to be the greatest attraction probably in the county right now. And then Venice Beach, number 2, y'all, number 2. So I want to thank all the people who come out and support me, too, and stop by and tell me how good I sound. All the good things I'm saying against the city, so I'll be back hopefully in a minute to say some more bad things about Dion O'Connell. Now, where's Rich Llewellyn?
John Walsh. John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, twittering at Hollywood Dems, the EMS. This is yesterday's agenda. This is what you did to yesterday's agenda. You owe an apology to all of us who came down here. I'll talk about that later at another meeting. The most important thing is there was a debate yesterday. Brown said he did not know who used the word whore in front of him. I will now reveal the name of the person. It has not appeared anywhere in the media. This is the first time it appears. Stephen Glazer. Stephen Glazer called Meg Whitman.
Mr. President, this isn't within the jurisdiction of the City of Los Angeles.
This man is a Democrat.
It is public comment.
He wants to lie. Stephen Glazer is the #1 person in charge
It is
of
open
the
public comment.
campaign. And he lied. And he said it. Now, I can't believe that you have a Democrat talking here and trying to stop me from talking. And I'll tell you right now, Ann Gust was in the room. His wife was in the room when it happened. She did not use the word whore. She listened to the word whore and she said nothing. And despite everything I've said about Brown, despite the fact that he's a liar, I'm voting for him. Despite the fact that I got a choice and we got a choice of 2 liars. Now everybody knows that Stephen Glazer was the one. Whitman knows it. You know what happens if Whitman had asked him if Stephen Glazer, Brown's got all sorts of stuff on her and her business, and it would have been mutually assured destruction. The nuclear missiles would have come out. But I want you to know that all the media know it was Stephen Glazer, but only at HollywoodHighlands.org can you find the truth. Stephen Glazer called Meg Whitman a whore. Let him sue me.
Zumadog. Zumadog. And Zumadog will be our last speaker before Richard Robinson.
Yes, thank you. First of all, we need to do something about Janice Hahn's runaway mouth. And this is not making fun of her. We have a double agenda today. We have serious business, and it's overwhelmingly unbelievable that she continues to use these chambers as opportunities to grandstand. It's despicable. It was worthless. And please, counsel, in a loving way, talk to the sweet, nutty, naive Janice Hahn and tell her that please zip it a little bit. I'm begging you. I can't take it. Now, let's get into some LA City news, and you can read about it at lacitynews.com, because there's once again an FBI investigation into affordable housing developers that you, the city, continues to do business with. The FBI investigation includes bribery, illegal campaign contributions. Antonio Villaraigosa took campaign contributions. I wonder if any of you did. So that is, why do you continue to do business with people under FBI investigation? Bonnie Bray and Eric Garcetti's district. This has to stop. What I'm asking for today, you must replace the LA Housing Department Assistant General Manager, Roberto A. I'm sent here by the people of the Housing Department. They don't have confidence. They don't like working for him. He has no experience. We discussed the conflict of interest allegations last time, where he could be creating business of lawsuits based on his work of being an outreach contractor. Now I am here to say several $million are unaccounted for in the LA Housing Department fund. Ask Assistant GM Roberto, please account for the several $1 million Zumadog is talking about. Wendy Gruhl, Trutanich, look into this. Get rid of this guy. Several $1 million gone.
Richard Robinson.
Mr. President, members, Richard Robinson. Sir, if I may talk about I can't let it go, man. And it's going to stay in my mind if I don't get it off. How the heck can anyone say something that's stupid about Janice? Excuse me. If there's anyone who has a mind gifted by God, is Janice. I'm getting a little bit tired of these attacks on Janice Hahn. But the reason I'm here to speak today is because in Mr. Garcetti's district, through the chair, Mr. Zine, at Hollywood and La Brea, there's a Taiwanese-owned motel. George Bernard Shaw said once, there's no place in ordinary society for extraordinary individuals. We got a little short guy. His name is Robert Yu. He's Taiwanese. He came here. He's part of the ruling class who was thrown off the island in 48 by Mao Zedong, thrown to the island of Quemoy in 48 by Mao Zedong. It's a ruling family. It's there. We have a law enforcement problem. If we dissect the word SAP, the Los Angeles Police Department in Hollywood as being extraordinarily insipid. The root word of the word insipid is sapidus. It comes from Latin. It means tasteless. I mean, the number of police officers in the Hollywood division who are still in that old mindset is despicable. We need some cops at that motel, Hollywood and La Brea. Thank you.
All right, that completes public comment for today. Mr. Clerk, you have items on ordinance. Pardon me, Mr. Garcia?
Maybe the ordinances first, sir.
The ordinance, right.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Ordinances that do not have speakers cards in on them and have not been called special for speakers cards are as follows. Items 6, 7, 18, 20 through 24, and 44.
6, 7, 18, 20, 24, 44. Those items?
20 through 24, sir.
23, 24. Those items before us, colleagues, on ordinance. Seeing no one on the queue, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item, please.
That would bring us to item number 19, called special for cards.
Number 19, Mr. Walsh, HollywoodHighlands.org. That's our only speaker on number 19.
John Walsh, blogging at Hollywood Highlands, HIGHLANDS.org. Email us at HollywoodDems, DEMS, at gmail.com, or go to our Twitter page, our Twitter feed, Hollywood Dems again. We just want to spend 1 minute telling you how much we are it's an important issue, establishing a hearing date for the maintenance of the Sunland Boulevard and Sunland Park lighting district. We're all in favor of lights, and we'd like you to go to and incidentally, I'm not in Jerry Brown's back pocket with the Chief of Police Association, and Stephen said Glazer called Meg Whitman a whore.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh, no other speakers on that matter. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Number 25, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Walsh and Dr. Williams, number 25. All right, Mr. Walsh passes. Dr. Williams? Dr. Williams passes. Okay. On number 25, colleagues, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Any other ordinances, Mr. Clerk?
No, sir.
All right, that clears the ordinances. Now, our next item, there's a request for number 30. And who is sponsoring that? Mr. Koretz? Mr. Koretz in chambers? There he is, okay. Mr. Koretz is in the audience.
Well, first I'd like to acknowledge, and this is a resolution in support of AIDS Walk Los Angeles and recognizing them. First I'd like to acknowledge Councilmember Krikorian, who helped to organize this honor for AIDS Walk LA, and he was called away at the last minute on an emergency in his district and unfortunately couldn't be here. But I know I speak for everybody in thanking him for his leadership. This morning, we're pleased to welcome Craig Miller, Kate Rosenblum, Phil Curtis, Jason Wise, Steve Simon, and staff from the Department of Disability. I don't know if you'd all like to come up. I knew Craig Miller when, even before he created the AIDS Walk over 26 years ago, when he worked for Congressman Bielenson, my local congressman, did a great job at that. It's hard to believe it's been 26 years since the AIDS Walk was created, but it was quite important. It created a funding mechanism for AIDS Project Los Angeles, which, as we are starting to realize the devastation of HIV and AIDS, provided the funding to provide so many services that were so desperately needed, and also a way for the community to become involved in this fight. It meant a lot to me in particular because the city I was involved with at the time, West Hollywood, which was created around the same time, was perhaps the most devastated city in the country in terms of the impact of HIV and AIDS. And here, 26 years later, millions of people have joined over the years to walk in the AIDS Walk Los Angeles. Collectively, those who walk help dozens of local organizations, including APLA and others, to provide particularly medical service, which in many cases have kept thousands of people alive, dental attention, meals, and many other services, as well as the effort to stop the spread of AIDS and HIV throughout the Los Angeles area and beyond. It provides financial support for APLA and other organizations. Just as importantly, it also has spurred social change on this issue. Tens of thousands of Angelenos, gay and straight, young and old, religious and secular, individuals from every cultural and ethnic background will join together this Sunday to walk proudly. And also, the AIDS Walk has been a model internationally for funding charitable healthcare organizations. And that's why we're here, to celebrate AIDS Walk Los Angeles and celebrating those whose blood, sweat, and tears have brought us into this 26th year of helping so many people. That's why it's a joy to have you here in council today, and a joy to have this event take place largely in the 5th Council District. And by the way, for those of you who are still looking for a team, I have a shameless plug. Please join me and my staff as we walk this Sunday. It would be an honor to have you join Team Koretz, and we'll personally give you a tour of part of the 5th Council District. So I hope to see you all on Sunday. And now I'll introduce Craig Miller to say a few words.
Thank you, Councilmember Koretz, for your years of leadership and friendship. And I would like to first introduce the Director of Government Affairs for AIDS Project Los Angeles, Mr. Phil Curtis.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Koretz. Thank you. Mr. Krikorian's office, I'd like to thank the City Council, police, fire, safety, the City AIDS Coordinator's office, and most of all the city's AIDS Walk teams for their ongoing support for this event. It means the world to us, and it means ongoing funding for dental care, food, and other vital support services for people living with AIDS. Thank you very much.
And next I'd like to have my colleague Bill Rosendahl, who's been involved in this issue for so many years and personally involved as well, having had his partner pass away from AIDS.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for your leadership on this issue. Colleagues, once again, we have the AIDS Walk. This has been going on since the horrific epidemic came to our great country in the 80s. I lost my first partner, Christopher Lee Blauman, January of 1995 to this terrible disease. I'm upset to see that our governor just cut out some money for AIDS, which was absolutely outrageous for him to be so irresponsible with such an issue that is of such importance. Tens of thousands of Los Angelenos will be out there on the AIDS Walk. Once again, it's to symbolize and to add energy to this crisis. It is ongoing. Young people just don't get it because they're full of youth and invincibility, that they are also still getting AIDS. People of color are getting AIDS. So we need to stop this epidemic. This is another expression. This is a symbolic march that even has real value because it helps raise money and helps deals with the issue. So as an openly gay man who was lost in the 80s and the 90s, my entire friendship circle, we'll never recover from that. Many of us, I'm now 65, think about it every single day when we think of our loved ones that have passed on. So I urge all of us here, colleagues on the council, not only to support the event, but to appreciate the fact that we continue to fight not only for basic rights when we look at the bullying going on with young people, which is another issue we're going to be dealing with, but this walk in particular symbolizes to all of us the importance of the AIDS epidemic being eradicated, and the sooner the better. And again, thank you, Paul, for doing this. Thank you. And thank you.
Mr. Labange, Councilmember Labange.
Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Koretz, Craig, everybody, it's so important. 26 years goes by as fast, but how has it grown? And it has great participation and a great walk to raise awareness for AIDS. And Bill, you hit it on the mark as far as this horrible hate crimes, whether it's in New York or New Jersey or wherever in the country. But the issue of AIDS is so important, and HIV, I just want to mention the name of the late, great Eunice Chesler, who was at Paramount Pictures, who opened the doors to the studios for the first initial walks that really grew it. I think was the first walk on Wilshire Western, I think. On Melrose, right there. And now we walk from West Hollywood into Los Angeles and back to West Hollywood. So it's a very great awareness. And so this Sunday morning, be there. Okay, thank you, everybody. Congratulations.
All right, thank you. Thank you, congratulations. Thank you, Councilmember Koretz and Councilmember Rosendahl.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we have a request now to... Oh, I'm sorry, there's still speakers. Go ahead.
It's quite all right. Craig Miller, one of the organizers of the walk. I remember well organizing this first event back in 1985 with many of the people who are here in this room. I remember the great leadership of the late, great Mayor Tom Bradley, who was one of the first public officials to step forward, associate his name with this issue and with this event at a time when it was not nearly so safe to do so. And obviously the work that we've done over the decades in walking together and raising funds for AIDS Project Los Angeles together has been instrumental to this city's response to the fight against AIDS. And as Councilmember Rosendahl just referenced, the fight remains urgent. $53 million for AIDS programs was again stricken from the state budget. So it is really once again incredibly incumbent upon the leaders of the city of Los Angeles, the people of the city of Los Angeles, to turn out in great numbers and support AIDS Walk Los Angeles again this year. And I also want to acknowledge a number of LA City team leaders who took time from work to be here this morning, including from Team Koretz, Eric Weiser, from Team Koretz, Councilmember Koretz, from the City of Los Angeles Community Development Department, Tanisha Dorsey and Lucy Reinhart, from the City of Los Angeles Fire and Police Pension, Laura Navarro, from the City of Los Angeles AIDS Coordinator's Office, Steve Simon and Rick Rosales, from the City of Los Angeles Bureau of Sanitation, Billy Henderson, from the City of Los Angeles Recreation and Parks Department, Juan Guzman, and from the Office of the Mayor, Susan Jack, Carrie Gross. Thank you all for your leadership, for working so hard to organize the employees of Los Angeles behind this annual event. We hope to see you all on Sunday.
Okay, thank you again. That concludes that presentation. We need to reconsider number 26. Oh, I'm sorry, number 30. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Very well. Number 26, we need to reconsider. So open the roll, reconsideration number 26. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
We have a card, Arnold Sachs, on number 26.
Thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. What's interesting about this, and the reason I held it, is in Victorville, the transmission line and the property value. There's a report, Housing Crunch hit cities projects. Property values that are the money gained through property tax is falling in the cities. Yet DWP does not pay property tax to the city. Instead, they pay the fee, the yearly fee that held up the budget discussions that occurred last year. Why not put on the ballot that DWP should be responsible for paying property taxes in the city, in the county, and the city to the county and the city of LA? In this item from 521, they're paying property taxes in Mono County. In this item on your agenda from 525, they're paying property taxes in Inyo County, but they're not paying property taxes here. You need to get the money. You're losing money. You're facing a budget deficit. They're paying all the cards. Get the property tax. Thank you.
All right, colleagues, that matters before us for a vote. Number 26, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Thank you very much. That ordinance is passed. Mr. Clerk, there's a request from Councilmember Hahn for number 2. Ms. Hahn will take number 2, and we do have cards on number 2.
Thank you, colleagues. This is a big step today in finally bringing a theater to the community of Watts. This is Watts Star Theater. It has been a dream, a hope of the community for a very long time. Even before I was elected on the city council, there was an effort to bring a first-class theater to Watts that would show first-run movies, but would also be an opportunity for young people in this community to learn about potential careers and job opportunities behind the camera. This theater will offer opportunities for young people to learn about filmmaking, editing, post-production, animation, and communication, skills that are especially valuable to our young people that live in Los Angeles and are so close in proximity to Hollywood and the entire entertainment industry. It is a tragedy, in my opinion, that this community has not had a theater. Many communities take that for granted. Many communities have, 14-screen theater complexes and never wonder about whether or not they can go close to home to watch a movie. This community has not had that. But there's been a group of very dedicated people led by Barbara Stanton who has believed that this community deserves a theater. And this community deserves a theater that will, again, not just fill the role of entertainment, but will fill a role in preparing young people to have the kind of jobs, job training and skills necessary to compete in the entertainment industry. What we're doing today, colleagues, is turning over site control to the Watts Star Theater Group. And as anybody knows, having site control where you're going to build this theater is important for the developer, because that's how you get financing. That's how you get people to believe in what you're doing. It's been a very long process in the city of Los Angeles to do this, but today, with your hopefully unanimous vote, we're going to be turning over site control to Watts Star Theater and the organizers that are trying to bring this theater to Watts. I really want to thank Barbara Stanton, first and foremost, for keeping the dream alive through a couple of council members, a couple of mayors, change in CRA staff. This woman has believed that it is possible, it is a reality, and probably one of the best lessons the young people in Watts will ever have is someone who sticks to it and believes in what they're doing. I want to thank the CRA staff. You don't always hear me thanking the CRA staff, but I really want to thank, certainly Barry McCoy helped to really bring this together. Charlotte Brimmer has been a star in our community for the CRA and has worked very diligently to bring all the pieces together. And I want to thank all the city staff who's been working on this. It's been a long process. It's not over. It's not over. What we're doing today is one step closer to bringing a theater to Watts, but it's not over. We still have to get financing. We still have to get more people who believe in this project for us to take it across the finish line. But I believe in this project. I would love to see a groundbreaking. I would love to see ultimately a ribbon cutting. I would love to see us continue to work together and prove that no obstacle is too great or too big to prevent something positive from happening in the community of Watts. So hopefully I can count on your support today, and again want to thank everybody who has worked so hard on this project. When this theater is finally built, and by the way, it's going to be built in the shadows of the Watts Towers. It's that area of Watts, right by the Blue Line station, right by the Cultural Crescent. It's a perfect location to bring this stimulus package to young people in Watts. So I hope I can count on your support today. Thank you.
We have 4 speakers on this matter. John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging with Mickey Jackson at Hollywood, Highlands, HIGHLANDS.org, emailing at Hollywood Dems, Hollywood then DEMS, and gmail.com, and also a Twitter feed where you get the latest, and that's also Hollywood Dems. And incident, we have over 80,000 a month successful server requests, 1 million a year. You know, it sounds good, I like, but look where the look where the deal is coming from. This is $598,000 of CRA money. They're leasing this, all that's happening here. They have no money for the project, they only have money for the parking lot. And who is leasing them the parking lot? LAMTA. MTA, who's telling you not to drive cars, is now building parking lots. Madness. 1 minute.
Arnold Sachs.
Thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. Yes, I thought I recognized the lot. When I come up from the South Bay, I take the Blue Line, and for years, you'd go by the lot heading north, there'd be a sign, this project, Watts Educational Center to be developed, brought to you by Mayor James Hahn, Supervisor Bratworth Burke. 2002, 2004, I started driving. The most definite improvement you can see, the sign disappeared. Keep up the good work.
Zumadog. Zumadog, not in chambers. Matt Dowd, final speaker.
See, first of all, look at the way you're calling the public cards. If the cities and the whole world's in a global fiscal crisis and everything's meant to be more efficient, why don't you say who's going to be next? And then Arnold Sachs can walk up here and you know, this is the simplest little thing you're just not even doing. So yeah, $600,000 for a parking lot so far. I mean, you need a movie theater down there, right? That's like, I just don't believe. I'm from New Zealand. So you can find me on Facebook. I'm Matt Dowd. Since John Walsh talks about all his things, you know, I'm down at Venice Beach. You can come talk to me about this item. You can come talk to me about the performance of the City Council anytime at Venice Beach. In fact, they do come and talk to me about the performance. So I might even talk about this one down at Venice Beach. Grab some incense too. How about that?
Zumadog.
Dennis, thank you so much for that discretion. I'd like to take a minute to say I was out of the room because when Janice talks I have to leave or else it triggers a terrible bipolar outrage on my part that I can't handle. But I see here some things I don't like. The word nonprofit, semi-public, CRA property, $600,000, movie theater. Okay, first of all, we know that hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars are poured into these projects. And if you see the Wendy Gruhl Controller Report, you find out that the money never gets used. It doesn't get used appropriately. When you look into the housing department with the conflict of interest allegations where you have the general manager, assistant general manager, hiring himself as an outreach contractor, then taking the information gathered on his job with the city and using it to create lawsuits. So we need to put an immediate hold on all this nonsense spending. They can go watch, cable TV or watch a movie on the internet. Enough of these shenanigans with all the money. It always sounds good and warm and fuzzy. And again, I didn't hear what Janice had to say because I can't take it. And it doesn't matter anyway because I saw the Fox 11 John Schwada investigative report into what Janice Hahn does with the nonprofit money, with the gang intervention money, with all the money. I heard that in Janice Hahn's district, well, that's in the Port of Los Angeles. That's her district.
Mr. President, I don't believe he's on topic on
Well,
this
it's
one.
her thing, isn't it? It's in her district. Okay, well, I'd just like to say I'm very wary of anything Janice Hahn wants to do with city money. I hear you have to pay her extra if you want to do business in the port, her piece of the pie. So let's just put a hold
Stay
on all
on
this-
target, please. Particular item, please.
Okay, so let's just say no because I don't trust Janice Hahn as far as I could throw this podium.
Thank you. All right, that matter is now before us. Open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
Next item, please, Mr. Clerk.
That brings us to item number 1. Called
Number
special
1.
cards.
John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, or for the latest, go to our Twitter. This concerns appropriation limits. It's raising the limits to $4,283,914. There's no fiscal impact in adopting this report. So instead of wasting your time watching this show, go to my website right now where you'll see the real dirt. Thank you.
Next speaker, Zumadog.
Okay. Yes, boy, a lot of damage to be done for this one little thing here. We're talking, does that say $4 billion? I've never seen so many numbers in my life. It's $4 billion to cover the appropriation limits for 2010. Is that $4 billion just to cover the pension losses? Ba-dum, psst. Because in case you hadn't heard, and this does relate to this, it was revealed that the city once again lost another $700 million of pension money, a 5.7% loss. I'd like to tell you people, you're supposed to make money, positive gain with pension money, not lose it by the hundreds, millions, and billions. So it says right here they want to recalculate the appropriation limit of each year. Here's what I say you need to do. Recalculate it down. Recalculate it down. I know what you people want to do. You just want to spend. You want to recalculate so you can spend it all before it's all cut off. So recalculate down, because your budget, in case you hadn't heard, it's a complete sham. It's fake. It's even worse than the governor's budget. It contains things like parking garage revenues of $80 million when you haven't even made the deal yet, and you're never going to get that in a million years. Secondly, it was overly optimistic as far as the revenue projections, and the CAO told you right here, you're overly optimistic and not pessimistic enough. Part of the problem that you have, that your own expert, the CAA, told you, is you weren't pessimistic enough, and you are overly optimistic. So right here, whatever you're thinking of raising, cut it, because you're not, look how bad things are going to be. Let there be no mistake about it. Zumadog State of the Union address. There is not going to be an economic comeback for the city of Los Angeles. It is over. If you are a property owner or your long-term financial sustainability depends on the economy of Los Angeles, sell now. Get out of town now. Greg Smith was wrong. Zumadog was right. It is over. It is over. It is over.
It is over, and Matt Dowd is next.
right, first of all, I want the warning for the repetition. That was 3 times. I counted it. Over. Where's the warning? Dion, see the city attorney, he's just picking and choosing whenever he wants to, enforce the stupid decorum. So anyway, I'm Matt Dowd from Bill Rosenthal's district. He talks about the governor being irresponsible for slashing AIDS budgets and stuff. Responsibility goes right back to you at home. And not importing all these things from China and the state of the whole economy, but that doesn't get the city off the hook, because you're the guys who appoint all these commissioners every day, and they're the ones who lost all the money, and that's why you're completely broke. In fact, you're so far in the red, all these little things you're trying to do are just ridiculous. You all should resign for being at the helm when the city went into the worst situation it's ever seen, probably. The great California. I'm getting out of here. I'm getting the hell out of Los Angeles as soon as I can. But not before I file my motion for summary judgment for all my performers out on the beach who Bill Rosenthal squeezed right off Venice Beach so him and Tom LaBonge can sell
Back on
permits
topic, please.
to vendors. These are the kind of things that you're doing. Is why you're in these situations where you have to do these things. You've got all this density downtown. And that's one thing Arnold Sachs was right. You fired 1,700 employees. We were right. You had to fire everyone in sight. But if you don't have jobs, no one's going to pay for all the luxury condos. So you have to have the jobs. And I'm going to go way off topic now on this one.
Yes, you are, because your time is up.
Thank you.
Miriam Vogler, down in the San Fernando Valley. Miriam, San Fernando Valley. San Fernando Valley, come in.
Drive safe.
San Fernando Valley. Miriam Vogler. Donna Pierman. Not there. Okay.
The sound of crickets.
Come back to the downtown city council. There we go. That matters before us, colleagues. Open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item, please.
Item number 17, called special by Councilmember Hahn.
Councilmember Hahn, number 17, please.
Thank you, colleagues. I want us to support today this agreement with the Los Angeles Maritime Institute and the Board of Harbor Commissioners for the sponsorship of Top Sail Youth Program. So I want us to agree to this contract, but this is an organization, colleagues, that has 2 sailing vessels in the Port of Los Angeles. They reach out to kids at risk all over Los Angeles to teach them how to sail. It's one of the programs I believe that we're all talking about, whether it comes to prevention or intervention, really giving kids a positive experience that will keep them from a life of violence. The Port of Los Angeles has reduced their commitment to this organization, so what I'm doing today is just adding an amendment to this contract that we're requesting the Board of Harbor Commissioners to reconsider increasing their level of sponsorship given the tremendous beneficial programs that are offered by this organization and mean a lot to our young people. So we're going to agree to this contract, but what I'm doing is requesting that the Board of Harbor Commissioners to relook at their sponsorship level and consider increasing it to what it used to be. So I hope I have your support on that.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Please open the roll on this item. Close the roll. As amended, and tabulate the vote.
Did I say amendment?
12 ayes.
Right. Did you want to clarify the
Yeah, we're actually amending the report,
right,
not the contract.
Gotcha. Next item, please.
That brings us to item number 29, called special by Councilmember Zine.
Dennis P. Zine, number 29.
Card on this?
Would you like to take the card first?
Yes.
All right. John Walsh, if you'd like to come forward on item 29.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. For the latest on Stephen Glazer, go to our Twitter page. You'll see his name in the news now that I fingered him as the person who used the whore word. This concern, I can't believe it. You're telling the media what to do. Who asked you? The media is doing a good job. You wasted the media's time yesterday when there were 2 cameras here. You only were able to find 10 people to show up. Rosendahl was late for this meeting. You need a time clock here. That's what you need. But here you're telling, I can't believe it, the chutzpah. All members of the media refrain from jeopardizing the safety of witnesses by publishing their names in gang-related trials. The media never does that. What are you talking about? Zine? Come on, Dennis. If you have a case where the media has used names, go to them. You're wasting time relative to city cloud imploring. I've never seen the word implore. How, as a city council, you don't use the word implore. You're in charge of ignore, not implore. So tell me, I want to know, how many people have been killed who were witnesses in gang-related trials? How many have been threatened? And is it the LA Times? You know, I never thought I'd be up here defending the LA Times. But when it's between, Godzilla and Frankenstein, I'm going to go for Frankenstein. So I'm going to have to, you're picking on the LA Times and the Daily News per quad without using names. But if you want to know the real dirt on the LA Times, come to HollywoodHighlands.org and you'll find out. And to all my gang people, I'm wearing bulletproof vest.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. This matter was brought to my attention by the Los Angeles Police Protective League, and in this particular situation, I did receive a reply from the Los Angeles Times and did speak to Matt Late, the law enforcement courts editor, regarding this. And as they say, there's always 2 sides to a story. There's no question there's been retaliation on witnesses a number of times. I just heard this morning on the news there's a case down in Mexico where the lead investigator on the case of the missing man on the Sea-Doo, the lead investigator was killed, decapitated, and his head was in a suitcase. And there's obviously retaliation not only in Mexico when it comes to crime and violence, but there's been retaliation on witnesses here in the city of Los Angeles and the county, and it's just a fact of life that certain gang members retaliate against witnesses, victims. This particular case that was illustrated, my conversation with Matt Late centered around the particulars of this particular gang-related matter. And what we're doing is substituting this motion as a result of the conversation. No one asked the Times to be sensitive to the release of the information. The prosecutor didn't ask, the police didn't ask, no one asked. And it was related to me that when they are asked, they weigh that situation, then they decide for public safety, in the interest of public safety, will they print that information or not print that information. So what we're asking is that, and the substitute motion, the district attorney in Los Angeles Police Department be encouraged to include as a standard practice a request to the media to protect the identity of witnesses during gang-related trials when it's necessary. And Mr. Late assured me that if that request is made, they would consider that fact. In this particular case that was brought to our attention, it was not requested. In fact, one of the prosecutors spelled the name of the witness to the reporter. So I think it's incumbent upon us in public safety, law enforcement, prosecution, etc., to make that request. And he said they would weigh that particular situation. So we didn't receive a reply from the Daily News. We did receive a reply, both written and verbal, from the Los Angeles Times. So we would make that appeal to the prosecutors, to law enforcement, in the situation when there is a witness and you think that witness may be in jeopardy because of a gang retaliation, to ask the reporter if they would withhold that information. They will weigh that, and when appropriate, and I hope they will live up to that, keep that matter confidential and not release that for the protection of the witness and the family of the witness. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Other members on this item before us? If not, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 1 no.
All right, that is approved. Next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to our closed session item. Would you care to continue to hold that matter on the desk?
Yes, please. Let's do that.
Item number 34, called special by Mr. Parks.
Okay, Mr. Parks, item number 34.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, what you have before you today is a consolidation of a number of motions that deal with account receivables and the city's ability to restructure its efforts to collect debt. And what we tried to do in Budget and Finance is to not address independently each one of these motions, but to put them in a collective master CF number, so all of the material can be forthcoming, and that the Macias report, which is a paid consultant report, will be the one that will bear the master number. And then we just met yesterday in a joint meeting with the Audit Committee, where the new Core Commission recommendations will be forthcoming, about 65 of them. And so these are things in which I think we could make a much better effort in addressing these issues and not lose different pieces of audits by putting it into one package, and in the future putting the account receivable as a primary function of the committees involved, and to move forward. We'd just like to make one correction on the committee report, that recommendation number 10 should reflect that the reporting should go to both, reporting should go to a joint meeting of the Budget and Finance and the Audit Committee, so this material can continue to be addressed. And so I'd ask for an aye vote that we move forward on it. All of the individual motions that are addressed, their recommendations are listed 1 through 9, so we did not lose any of the substance, but it will make it easier to address all of these issues as we move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. If there are no other speakers on this, please prepare the roll. Without a hearing in committee, sir, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 43, called special by Councilmember Perry.
All right, Ms. Perry, item number 43.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just want to take a minute to tell you where I hope we can end up, and then I'll tell you why. And I think we have some representatives here from the Department of Water and Power in the event people have questions, and they can come and sit at the center table. This has gone through the Energy and Environment Committee, and I would like to, I Prop 245 this, I would like to veto this today and send it back to the Board of Water and Power Commissioners to conduct a thorough review of the actuarial study conducted by the Department of Water and Power, and determine whether or not there is a need to conduct an additional independent review by both pension administrators, and to explore methods and approaches to address any potential discrepancies that may be impacting the reciprocal arrangement in order to maintain the arrangement intact and to preserve the financial stability of both pension systems. Now, on September the 7th, the board moved to suspend the reciprocal agreement between Water and Power Employees Retirement Plan and LACERS. The board report stated that the objective of the suspension was to allow time for DWP to fully analyze the fiscal impact of this agreement and consider modifications without incurring additional liability. The reciprocal arrangement provides portability of pension benefits to city employees who are members of LACERS and transferred to the Department of Water and Power. The agreement gives these employees service credit for all the time worked at the city. The DWP plan takes on full liability for the services with LACERS. The only funding the plan receives from LACERS is the employee contributions and interest. LACERS retains all employer contributions from the city. LACERS provides the same portability arrangement for the Department of Water and Power employees to transfer to the city. Now, the Department of Water and Power states that the reciprocal agreement is not working as intended and that it has resulted in costs of over $470 million over the past 5 years. During the board hearing, there was not any extensive discussion regarding the impacts to the DWP pension program, LACERS, and the City of Los Angeles. So this 245 motion I've done today has noted a number of questions associated with the suspension of the reciprocal agreement, and given this, I felt that it was necessary to get further information on this and have it come back in 30 days to more thoroughly review the matter and assess its fiscal impact.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers wishing to be heard on this? Mr. Parks?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to ask Fred to come up. I just want to clarify one question that is on the CLA report, and they want to appreciate their effort to get a number of things that were asked at committee to obtain answers. And this is the October 12th CLA report. But on question 16, where it asked did DWP notify and meet with the labor unions regarding the suspension, the answer appears to state that it was premature at this time. And if I understand what we've said in the past, if we're dealing with non-employees, there is no obligation to meet on these. We could do that as a courtesy, but it's not a requirement to meet. And I just want you to clarify that answer for number 16.
Thank you, Councilman Parks, Mr. President, for this opportunity. You are quite correct. It is not a meet and confer obligation on the part of the department. It's not a meet and confer obligation with regard to the unions that represent employees at Water and Power. And it's not a meet and confer obligation with regard to unions representing employees in other city departments and offices.
And I think you've told us for years non-employees do not have representation.
That's correct. For example, the formation of a new retirement tier for a retirement system is not a meet and confer issue. That advice has been given to this body in the past. This is very similar in that regard.
But again, if the department chooses to meet and consult or discuss, that's within their purview, but there is no obligation.
Correct. That's right. Departments and offices can meet informally to discuss matters, but it's not their obligation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Stay there, please. Thank you. I'm just trying to understand what I'm doing, is what I'm working at right now. How many employees went from the city's general fund over to the DWP?
President, can be answered here.
So the first question is, how many folks have gone from the city's fund to the DWP? And the second question inherent in that is the employee's contribution does go with them, but the city's backup doesn't go with it. So help me out with both those questions. First of all, how many people are we talking about and how much money?
Sangeeta Bhatia, Retirement Plan Manager, Water and Power Employees Retirement Plan, and this is Javier Romero, Board President of the Board of Administration of the Retirement Plan. We had an actuarial study conducted which covered the last 6 years, ending July 1, 2010, and there were 1,600 employees identified that moved from the city departments to the pension plan at Water and Power.
Mm-hmm. And why doesn't the government money follow with it, or what happens with DWP? What kind of burden are you guys looking at?
Basically, the reciprocal arrangement, the way it was set up, was intended such that the employee contributions would be the only contributions that follow the employee. However, the intent at the time was that it would be cost neutral to both the city pension plan as well as the DWP pension plan. However, lately, over the last few years, the number of transfers has ramped up to the point of being a concern. And so we need to step back. The Retirement Board had an actuarial study conducted to determine what the impact was, what the fiscal impact was on the unfunded actuarial liability, which our pension plan will be paying. And so basically, to answer your question, the reason that the employer contributions do not follow is that's the way the plan was set up at the time, but the objective at the time was that the cost neutrality would prevail as this plan
So where are we
works.
at now? And why is Ms. Perry taking this action? What are we doing?
Well, at this point, the Retirement Board initially began to study this issue a few years back, and it was determined that we should only take any action if we can obtain an actuarial report. That just recently came in, and it indicated that the impact on the unfunded actuarial liability is $183 million with interest, as I indicated.
$183 million?
Yes, on the unfunded actuarial liability as of July 1, 2010, for the past 6 years. Now, that equates to about 1.4% of payroll In addition, the department contributed about $55 million, which it is required to do per plan provisions as a match to employee contributions that came in. The retirement board reviewed this report and felt that some kind of changes are necessary. At that point, a plan amendment was begun, the process of a plan amendment. It is only the first step, and it was recommended, just to back up, any change to the pension plan requires a plan amendment. This is a charter requirement as well as a plan requirement.
Okay, so what do you want? You want a charter for what?
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to suspend the pension plan while we get an opportunity to determine the complete fiscal impact to prevent any further incurring of additional liability. In the interim, the objective is to study different plan design changes. In fact, today, the retirement board met, it is our regular board meeting date, and they looked at alternative plan designs, and we actually received an email indicating that the retirement board is going to recommend to the Board of Commissioners a plan design that is similar to the CalPERS style of a reciprocity arrangement. And under this arrangement, each system maintains their liability associated with the service of the employee.
And if I can add to that,
Please,
the initial, out of the 1,600 employees that came over from the city,
right,
the average age years of service were 7 years of service. During those 7 years of service, the taxpayers are paying for their benefits. When they transfer to the water and power, they're getting billed again for the same years of service that the taxpayers paid to the plan and to the ratepayers. And if I were to say it in layman terms, like going to the market, getting charged twice for the same product.
Yeah, why are we doing that? I mean, since the 7 years that they were there or whatever, that was picked up and now...
Right, that's normally how the process works in retirement. The employee pays his contributions, the city matches.
Right.
Under the reciprocity agreement, the employer's contribution stays within the city or within DWP. The recent issues that have transpired with the city, with so many city employees going over to water and power, it has left a great unfunded liability. During the first 6 months of this year, the number has already surpassed that of last year. The board's fiduciary duty was to recognize these numbers, stop the unfunded liability immediately, because that's our duty to the plan.
So what do we do?
Well, what we're doing is we're trying to discuss with LACERS to form a new plan where each plan maintains their own liability. So the initial intent of cost neutrality is there. 30 years ago, both plans accepted the responsibility of being cost neutral. And that's all we're saying is let's rewrite the plan to ensure that both pension plans accept the responsibility that they took 30 years ago.
Sure. So saying that, you're talking about 100 and what million did you just say?
Unfunded liability.
Yeah, how much?
Well, the actuarial report indicated that the impact was $183 million.
183 million.
Yes.
Okay. So with 183 million,
yes.
How do you intend to deal with that?
Well, that's an issue. The board has not addressed that issue yet.
I understand.
But we hope to be made whole over time, because that's what the intent was.
Sure, and how do you intend to be made whole?
And then we'll go to Ms. Perry.
That's an item to be discussed by the board.
Yeah, that has not,
it could be any combination of things, a payment plan, it could be DWP employees continue to come back to the city and pay back that way. I mean, our goal is not to impact the city's budget in any way. We're willing to work with the city to accommodate, the needs, but what we're saying is we need to be fair to both pension plans, the employees of the Department of Water and Power, and our ratepayers.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenbaum.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
A couple questions. And we have, because I remember when I first started out here, people would talk about, there would be people who would get bureau chief jobs, and they would then retire at 55. Is it 1 year or 3 years, your last highest pay?
It's the highest 26 pay periods, no matter when they occurred.
If you look at Eric Garcetti, the president, and the microphone will pick your voice up.
Yes, it's the highest one-year salary.
Right. Should that be changed as representatives? Should that be changed to, say, 3 years? Because I've been disappointed when I get so excited when some people get promoted to a bureau chief, and then all of a sudden at 55 they retire. And I'm thinking, what's that? They're not. I'm proud of those who serve the city, but some people just try to get that 1 year and book. Are we looking at that? You're the managers. You're the people who are in charge of this, right?
That's right.
Are we looking at any of that?
At this point, we're looking at the cost, the actuarial cost, the impact on the unfunded actuarial liability. That's...
Got it. But on the issue that I brought up, Sharon, you want to answer that?
Mr. Labange, with regard to the lasers, that is something that is under consideration right now. There was a motion that was introduced as recently as last week, I believe, that has asked us to look into the possibility of, instead of looking at a one-year average or a 1 year at the highest amount,
right,
as a 3-year average instead.
Right.
So that's actually going to be coming back to this city council for consideration within the next few weeks.
And just let me ask you a question there. What happens when you go to Water and Power? You come from the city. Does that mean that the Water and Power then takes over what the city's ability is?
It is as if you had worked for the Department of Water and Power from day one.
From day one?
Yes.
What if you go to Water and Power, then come back here, what happens?
Well, the way the reciprocal arrangement is set up right now, the employee contributions are the only ones that move with the employee.
Say it again?
The employee contributions, the member contributions,
right,
follow the employee.
Follow the employee, wherever they are, they go back and forth in between.
That's right.
there.
However, records indicate that over the same 6-year period studied, only 270 employees have moved from the Department of Water and Power to other city departments, as opposed to 1,600 during the same time period moving from...
And has anybody ever moved, or you see a high propensity of people who move in their last years of their service and then retire quickly at Water and Power?
Well...
what number do you see that? I see the gentleman from your Water and Power, right?
Yeah, I'm Water and Power, but we do have employees that come over from the city, work a year, and do retire.
But how many? I mean, if you have 1,600...
We don't, yeah, we don't have the number.
So
I think it would be a worthy number to
didn't focus
let us know.
The study did not focus on that. The study looked at specific transfers during the last 6 years and addressed it that way.
Right.
And it also determined that generally people who move have about 7 years or so of experience at the city and come over.
So 7 years, and then they earn a lot of it over at Water and Power.
7 years at the city, let's say,
Right.
And then they begin their career at DWP. So there is the opportunity to look at a plan design change without impacting employees.
This last question, could DWP just take a cursory look, push a button on that computer you got over there and see how many people come at the end and split? And so you could try to protect the investment that Water and Power. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
I know Water and Power.
We're both Water and Power.
Well, I know, but you were not, she was smiling at me, which is a positive, which I appreciate, but you weren't smiling at me. You were giving me I want to hear from you.
He has a...
I have a hearing disability, and Ms. Bhatia is my ears.
Okay.
But I'm not clear if, I guess it's a question that you're imposing.
If I were you, I would want to know how many people come from the city and just stay a short time at the end, and if you're getting your investment. And then if I were you, I would say we should look at some measures to protect the Department of Water and Power to make sure we maximize it by the ratepayer. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
Try to look at that.
I understand your point, but we can't do that. We're currently, the hiring pool for the Department of Water and Power is exclusive to city employees, regardless of how many years of service they have.
I know you could look at that, though. That's
we can look at that, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, maybe you could recommend it to your Board of Commissioners or to your General Manager or whomever, and maybe there's a suggestion to better serve the people of Los Angeles. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
Right, we can do a study.
Thank you. Mr. Alarcon.
Yes, you testified in committee that the study was 6 years.
Where are the transfers occurring from the city to DWP? Were they all the same in all 6 years?
Well, the increase in the number of the increase in the number of transfers have been more in the last 3 to 5 years.
Okay, has it been more in the last year?
Yes.
And do you think the city's layoff procedures, the furlough situation has contributed to that?
I don't know whether that has had an impact.
Sharon, do you have a guess on that?
Councilman, I would believe that Water and Power, over the course of the last year and a half, because they were able to hire people, that they did provide displacement opportunities for city employees who could have been at risk at losing jobs. Also, the fact that there are furloughs here in the city, the Water and Power system provides probably a higher level of pay for those employees. So it is likely that Water and Power was a very attractive choice for city employees.
Yeah, but it's always been that way. There's always been a differential in pay for clerk typists here and clerk typists there. So we don't know whether this is just a spike or whether this is going to be a 20-year experience?
Well,
the study was only 6 years.
Well, the study covered a period of 6 years. That was the data that was provided to the actuary, specific data. Now, our records indicate that until about 1991, the cost was similar for both of the pension plans. It has started becoming an issue post-91. The Retirement Board wanted to cover a sufficient number of years to make sure that we cover not only the recent years, but also those in the past. So basically, the study covered from July 2005.
I hate to cut you off, but you're talking on my time, and I need to move on. So but I think everybody knows that we've been in a downsizing situation for the last 2 years, so obviously that's going to create a spike in your study that isn't reflective of what may be the long-term reality. At some point, some of these employees, by the way, were temporary. They were hired temporarily. Is that not true?
That's not correct.
That's not correct?
No, that's not correct. Not the actuarial study. The actuarial study covered all of the transfers during.
But my point is that some of the recent hires are going to come back to the city because the functions that they are performing are temporary. In other words, the street paving program isn't going to be ongoing for 20 years. It's a 3 to 5 year program that's funded by ARA, and those positions are going to go back to the city eventually. The theory being that the economy is going to improve.
Right.
So those positions are going to come back. And then you're going to come back and want a reciprocal agreement again? When the city hires more of these people, then you're taking?
May I speak?
No. I'll just ask my other question, and then I'll press my button again because I want to move forward. And you can speak after I finish, okay? I'm just kidding. The other concern I have is there a problem at the executive level that's more extreme than at the lower levels? Because it seems to me that, for example, I hate to use this example, but Ron Deaton transferred over. He worked for about 1 or 2 years and made an enormous pension that was entirely burdened on the thing. Why couldn't we just eliminate the executive transfers and their ability to access your pension system? I don't think anybody would have a problem with that.
Actually, the study indicated that, in general, the people who transfer had about 7 years of experience at the city, and they were, on an average, about 40 years old.
But those are averages.
So, no, this is a specific, that's why, that is the reason we went with a full-blown study. We did not want to go with averages. And in general, the trend is for people to begin their career at DWP after about 6 or 7 years at city departments.
Okay, I'm going to push
was
my
the
button
majority
again.
of the...
I'll push my button again.
Thank you. Ms. Perry.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I want to ask Sharon So a question on the record, just to clarify that the council does have the authority to conduct a 245 and send this back to committee because we are vetoing the commission's decision. Can you explain that, Ms. So?
Yes. With regard to Charter Section 1186, and I have Mr. Merkin here, and he can weigh in on this as well, but in accordance with Charter Section 1186, any planned amendment to the Water and Power Retirement System requires the approval of both the Board of Water and Power Commissioners and adoption by the Board of Retirement, a Water and Power Retirement Plan. Under the council's authority to assert jurisdiction under Charter Section 245, the Board of Water and Power Retirement Plan actions are strictly not subject to veto. However, the 245 in this particular instance was taken on the action taken by the Board of Water and Power Commissioners in approving the plan amendment.
And thank you very much, Ms. So. Again, I just wanted to reiterate to my colleagues that we do not have recommendations from the Chief Legislative Analyst yet, or from the CAO's office, their analysis that we can put on the record today, which is why we need to act today. So we have to take an action to send it back, and they will come back in 30 days. And at committee, we had also suggested that while CLA and CAO are not an official part of the negotiating process, that it was recommended to the Department of Water and Power pension representatives that they at least include them in conversation so that they can be anticipatory, in an anticipatory mode in terms of understanding the issues the city might raise rather than being in this reactionary state that they're in now where they have to react to what we're asking and at least incorporate them in the discussion in a more formal way. So with that, I hope that you will support this veto, send it back to the commission. It will come back to Energy and Environment, and then hopefully we'll have an outcome which will be much more palatable.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon.
Me again? Okay. Colleagues, I don't have a problem with the notion of reforming our pension systems. We're going to have to do it. And whether it's the city or the DWP, we have to do it. I think the problem with this one is that they're suspending an existing agreement without knowing where we're going. And that I have a severe problem with. I need to understand what is the option. Secondly, I believe the study is invalid in the sense that it doesn't take into consideration the fact that we've been transferring people over for the last couple of years because of the economy and because of the particular situation we were in with our general funds. So the numbers are skewed in the last couple of years. 1,600 transferred from the city to the DWP, almost 300 transferred back to the city. I think the numbers would have been much closer had it taken into consideration those that were compelled to move over because of our early retirement program and because of our layoffs and furlough program. And so it's to use the words of Daryl Gates, it's an aberration that I don't believe that this is an ongoing problem, but in any case it should be studied. And before we try to change horses in the middle of a stream, I think we need to have more information, and we certainly shouldn't just shut it off, because we're going to need more jobs at DWP. We're going to need more employees to go to DWP in this coming year for the exact same reasons we needed them to go over in the last 2 years. So if we impose this program, we're going to have a more difficult time moving people to the Department of Water and Power because of the tremendous loss in their retirement benefits. So this is going to create more problems on the city side. So I think it's a bad decision. At least it's not well thought out. And I think that it's certainly biased. I've said before, DWP gets all the benefits of paying higher salaries, luring, cherry-picking people from the city employment side over to DWP side. I mean, we're all supposed to be one family here, but that it just doesn't play out fair in this circumstance. We need DWP right now. We need them to provide jobs to the city employees. We don't need them to discourage that by these kinds of policies. We need them to move more employees over there to protect them. So this is in many ways sort of cold-blooded. At a time when people are going to be losing their jobs, there will be literally hundreds of people who will lose their jobs just because of a policy like this. And I think it's wrong, and we should send it back with a strong message. I agree with Jan Perry.
All bad is very bad. Just think.
Do you always conclude your speeches that way, Mr. Alarcon? All right, with that, let's go ahead and open the roll.
Okay, I'm fine now. I'm good.
Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All right, that 245 is asserted, and, the veto is sustained to send back. Next item, please.
Item number 46, called special for cards.
Item 46 is our next, and we have first speaker, Dr. Clyde Williams. Dr. Williams, if you want to come forward, come on forward. We can see you, and so can the camera. We'll make sure. Go ahead, please.
Hello? Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Am I against kids? I don't think so. However, there was an interesting little comment in this particular report. We don't know how much it's going to cost to operate and maintain it. That will come a few years from now. Same problems as we have right now. We have parks. We have Quimby funds, which can't be spent because if you spend the Quimby funds, then where's the money to operate and maintain the parks going to come from? We can't build libraries. We can't build a whole bunch of things because if we do build them, who's going to operate? Who's going to maintain? We have a stormwater system that they estimate will be $8 billion in the year 2020. Capital Works, their own estimates range from anywhere from $500 million a year to a lower estimate of maybe $400 million a year, every year in perpetuity. So I would highly recommend that the council always require life of project costs or total project costs, say for a 20-year period, so that you really know what you're obligating the citizens of Los Angeles to, not just this year, not just this 4 years, but in perpetuity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. That'll close our public comment on item 46. Any members wishing to be heard? If not, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 47, called special for cards.
Okay. John Walsh is our next speaker. I'm sorry, Mr. Walsh. I was done. You're out of time for today, but we'll add that to the record. Arnold's. Okay, why don't you go ahead then? We did have the meeting canceled. Go ahead. If you take a minute, please.
Notice, once again, I overruled the chair.
Arnold Sachs will be our next speaker.
That should be 2 minutes. I would have been allowed 2 minutes yesterday.
1 minute, sir. Go ahead, please.
He only gives me 1 minute. That's like a macho thing from Eric.
Sir,
I'm only going to give you 1
minute.
The 80,000 people out here, aren't you disgusted about what's happening here? And what is the issue? Revenue efficiency. This is the most inefficient group in the world. I see Ms. Hahn's name up here. Now she's sitting down. You are totally inefficient.
If you could bring it back to the commission before us, please.
And I'm talking about efficiency, the report, and you tell me it says revenue efficient. I'm not talking. Do you really enjoy heckling? Why don't you go to a nightclub and heckle?
All right, sir, I'm going to give you one more warning. Please discuss what's before us. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Walsh. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker.
It's the same as 34. Thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. This Commission on Revenue Enhancement, ACORA, as I bring up again the article from the Daily Breeze, October 5th, one of their first actions was to re-audit the controllers audit on collections that the city receives. So I thought, well, maybe they could do some other audits. Here's an audit by the city the controller. City costs nearly double. Maybe they could re-audit that and find out if that's true. How about this audit? LAPD mishandles millions. Maybe they could re-audit this audit and find out if that's true. How about, well, LAPD's jail sits empty. How about this audit on the GPS that wasted $855 million? Maybe they could re-audit that and find out if that's true. The idea here is they're talking about collectibles, but they're not discussing expenses. So we need to have a voice on what the expenses are. Maybe we can get an audit on that. And along the same lines, there was the discussion about the red light tickets and the fact that the DMV, the state DMV, and the courts do not issue a failure to appear because the tickets aren't signed. So I'm wondering if anybody in the city council has decided to discuss legislation that would change that. Because as of now, if you get a red light ticket, since you haven't signed it, there is no failure to appear that will mean that your license will be affected. So if you get a red light ticket, you don't have to go to court because nothing will appear on your record. And until you decide on how to enhance revenue collection, and in this case, go to the state, you'll be stuck with that.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Dr. Williams is our next speaker. Zumit Dog would follow him, but I think he has left and was out of time, so we'll add that to the record.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno. Here we go again. Who's in charge of this mess? You have a study for 6 months, and all they do is basically say, hey, you need somebody in charge. But you have somebody in charge. Where's the mayor? Where's the city council? Where are the boards and the commissions of every unit that you're talking about? Collectibles. By the way, you've already voted in item 34 for the sheriff. So maybe the finance department will settle the whole thing. I don't know. But shouldn't you just assign the controller or the finance department to enforce their sheriff's rules on collectibles for every department? And you haven't talked about the Department of Public Works. Oh, they have fees also. In fact, I pay more in solid waste and stormwater, and sewerage than I do on electricity and water. How does that occur? I don't know. I know that I conserve on some things, but some things I can't conserve on. And these are fees, not taxes, but we don't. That may change in this coming election. I don't know. But I do know that we have a controller who did a report and said, hey, you got to look at these things. Maybe just put the inspector general in the controller's office and forget about this committee, because all they're doing is verifying what has gone on before for the last 5 years. Everybody knows it. The mayor can't enforce it on the departments. The boards and commissioners can't enforce it on the departments. And apparently the departmental managers can't even enforce it within their own departments. So why add another layer of bureaucracy to the finance department, to the controller?
Thank you, Dr. Williams. And Dr. Williams, just a point of information, I don't know if you've read the 120-page action plan, but it has actually some quite detailed descriptions. It's more than one recommendation. There's 10 that are in the broad, but about 57 different ones, and it doesn't propose a new bureaucracy for that. It's quite different than that. But this was just to extend the life of it for another 6 months, because there's separate items that don't have to do with the collection per se, but efficiency that they're looking at as well. So just wanted to let you know, and that's available through the city's website for the public to read as well. That will close our general public comment on this item. Anybody wishing to speak on this? If not, let's prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All right, that is approved. Next item, please.
That brings us to item 48, called special for cards.
Okay, item 48, Mr. Walsh, will I come forward for another minute?
John Walsh, blogging with 1 million a year, successful server requests at Hollywood Highlands, HIGHLANDS.org, emailing at hollywooddems@gmail.com, and of course, Twitter accounting at Hollywood Dems also. This concerns graffiti. As you may know, the graffiti is just out of control and all over the city. I'm sure it's just as bad in Northeast as it is where we are. We need more work on graffiti, and I'd just like to finish by saying the top deputy of Brown, Stephen Glazer...
Sir, just discussing graffiti busters right now. Thank you. I will close our comments on this item. Please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Next order of business, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 33, closed session matter.
Okay, we'll now go into closed session pursuant to the California State Code to discuss items that are before us of a confidential nature. We'll come back into open session just after for any actions that we take and announce those to the public. If we could, I know we just had some folks that just came in, our apologies for the timing, but if we could please clear the council chambers for our closed session. We just have one item. We'll come back to open session after that. Thank you. It's always nice to see our former controller, Rick Tuttle, here. And thank you, Mr. Tuttle, for gracing us with your presence. We're back in open session. We take a vote on proposed settlement. We'll send 48 forthwith, but let's go ahead and announce what the number 33 is.
Mr. President, in regards to item number 33, there was a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $340,000 in the case entitled Jared Tomasi et al. Versus City of Los Angeles.
Okay, let's go ahead and prepare the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All right, that is approved. Next order of business.
Mr. President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
All right, those are posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Hahn requests to be excused on October 26th for city business. That meets council policy.
Okay.
Councilmember Labange requests to be excused on October 29 and November 3 for city business. That meets council policy.
All right.
And Councilmember Zine requests to be excused on November 3 for city business. That meets council policy.
Okay, he's excused as well. Any announcements, colleagues? Mr. Coyne?
Which one?
Oh, look at Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, Mr. Krikorian, in fact, reminded me that yesterday was the 12th anniversary of Matthew Shepard, who was literally nailed to the fence and killed. Next Wednesday, the 20th, we're going to acknowledge what we call Purple Day for the young kids who are in grade school and high school who suffer through bullying. I mean, look, I'm a gay guy. I can tell you all about the pain we go through all the time. And our young ones are still suffering in schools where you saw the guy jump off the George Washington Bridge. We lost 6 young people in the last 10 days. So we're going to acknowledge it nationally next Wednesday, the 20th. But today is a special moment because of Matthew Shepard, who gave his life 12 years ago. And could we learn how to be more tolerant on this planet and realize, if we can realize this, that God created nature and homosexuality is an expression of nature, and that God makes no mistakes, and we should all be treated with respect and dignity. Tell it to the parents of young gay people that they have no clue as to the reality as children are growing up, what causes one to be a homosexual or a heterosexual. It's just an expression of nature. So in the memory of Matthew Shepard, I stand today, as well as to prepare ourselves for next Wednesday when we celebrate all those young folks that find themselves constantly bullied. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Coyne?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to announce a bit of good news. I know that everyone has been following the news about the murder of Cherie Osman Hadzik, which happened in July in Valley Village, a brutal murder of a young woman who was planning her wedding by a stranger who entered her apartment, killed her, and then set the apartment on fire. I'm very pleased that after this council authorized a $50,000 reward for information leading to the capture of the suspect, that suspect, Omar Armando Loera, was brought into custody last night in Mexico. He is now in custody at North Hollywood Division and will be arraigned today for that crime, today or tomorrow. So I want to thank all my colleagues for supporting that reward motion, which actually did play an essential role in bringing him to justice.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian, and thank you for your work in ensuring that justice moved forward to Mr. Parks and then Mr. Labange.
I want to remind the public and also invite all of the council that the 5th annual Taste of Soul is going to be on Crenshaw on Saturday between 10 and 6. Invite everybody out. It's probably one of the largest street festivals in the city. It has about 80 to 100,000 people. There will be a short program around 1 o'clock where they'll greet the crowd, but it's an all-day festival, and certainly appreciate your support for the 5th year. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
Yeah, I just want to again welcome Rick Tuttle, former city controller, and his wife Rebecca. Give them a hand there, coming down here. I want to stand with Mr. Rosendahl when he talked about bullying and the harm, homophobic harm that has been directed across the country and the awareness that needs to be done. I also want to stand, too, to ask the city attorney, who's not here, to look at sometimes the bullying that goes on as directed by comments, to make sure that we tone it down and we become more civil, because I think that's a good thing. And I also wanted to state, too, that thank everybody for Ciclavia, the great job Mr. Garcetti did, Mr. Reyes, Mr. Huizar, myself, Mr. Wesson, and the wonderful event that was really organized by the bike community that celebrated Los Angeles in a very special way, riding throughout the city. And lastly, I want to congratulate, just represent a small part of it, but I got in the morning papers, the Daily News, 100 years. Can you imagine the Valley 100 years ago, in 1910, long before the aqueduct was even built? The Van Nuys Call was its paper's name, and then the Van Nuys News, and the Valley News, and Green Sheet, all the way down, and they always did a great job and continue to do a great job of focusing on the Valley. All regions of the city should have a paper that does the voice in their region. So I think collectively we should salute the Daily News for their work, and especially salute Rick Orloff, who's the hardest working, most comprehensive reporter, who's never, ever misspelled my name or mispronounced it. Love you, Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Lebong. Thank you, Mr. Lebong. Mr. Parks already announced. Any other announcements? Do we have any adjourning motions today?
Excuse me, Mr. President, there's been a request to take item 48 forthwith.
Yeah, 48 forthwith without objection. Thank you. If not, Mr. Clerk, if you please call the roll. I'm sorry. We do have one adjourning motion. If I can ask everybody to rise.
Thank you, colleagues. I'd like to adjourn today in the memory of Inez Bell, a longtime San Pedro resident who recently passed away. She is the mother-in-law of a good friend of mine, Pat Wilson, who owns a very successful business in Wilmington. He and his wife, Nancy, as well as their 3 children, were obviously very saddened by her loss. Inez is survived by Nancy, her daughter, her brother Charlie, a niece Tommy, and 3 grandchildren. I'd also like us to adjourn today in the memory of Sweet Alice's daughter, Luvinia Dolly Woods, who passed away on October 4th. She was only 47. Lavinia was born in 1963 and is the daughter of Sweet Alice and Alan Harris. She grew up in Watts, attended San Miguel Elementary, and graduated from Jordan High School in 1981 with honors. As a young child, she faced many medical challenges that kept her limited to many day-to-day activities, but because of these limitations, she discovered her passion for community service, just like her mother, Sweet Alice. She'll be remembered for being a people person, friendly, outgoing, yet not afraid to tell it like it was, also after her mother. Yes, okay.
To all members on that, sure.
Her personality attracted you to her, and her ever-present smile kept you encouraged, joyful, and feeling loved. Lavinia leaves her memory to be cherished forever by her forever loving husband of 30 years, John, her 3 children, Johnetta, John Allen, and Jonathan, her mother and father, Sweet Alice and Alan, brother Robert, sisters Alvinia, Twanda, Linda, and Aubrey, and her only grandchild, Cameron, a host of aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, and dear lost. Our sympathy goes out to the family of Sweet Alice, and this would be co-presented by,
we'll put all members.
By Jan and Bernard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Any other adjourning motions, colleagues? If not, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. We'll next be in session on Friday, October 15th, this Friday here in John Farrow Council Chambers